your headphones and some wine. Don't be scared now, you'll be fine. 'Cause nothing is fact and we're just talking. So come join Weird Things and Wine.
Hello, and welcome to Weird Things and Wine, the show where we sip wine and talk about all things weird. My name is Tash.
And my name is Mia.
And today we will be talking about Bigfoot.
Ah!
Shall we jump right into it?
Yes!
I'm so excited.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
Cheers! All throughout history, stories of large ape-like creatures have persisted. Every culture seems to have legends of encounters, leading to mass speculation about their supposed existence. These cryptids seem to toe the line between human and animal, with many sightings detailing intelligence that rivals or even exceeds our own. Modern science still has not found a satisfying explanation, but the plethora of evidence is undeniable. Let's talk about Bigfoot.
Beautiful. Beautiful intro.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you believe?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have something for you.
What if I said no?
I would have ruined the whole bit. Here you go.
Oh my gosh.
It's a sticker.
Oh my gosh. Where did you get this?
There's a store in a town just a couple hours away from us that is just Bigfoot. It's all about Bigfoot.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's a sticker. It's a sticker that says I believe. So that's what you get for Bigfoot.
I actually love this.
Do you want to tell us about the drink that we're drinking?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what we're starting off with here, it's called a Bigfoot highball, but I don't think that that's an appropriate name. So I think that it should be called Bigfoot in the Forest because you garnish it with thyme, a sprig of thyme, which looks like a tree.
It does. It's so cute.
I feel like the name is not appropriate, but it's fine. It's good.
It's so cute. It's very tropical.
See, it was surprising. Most Bigfoot-themed drinks have tropical flavors, which I was surprised about. It's
weird.
I saw one that was like whiskey, and I was like, no.
No, I don't like whiskey.
Let's not do that one.
No. Good call. It's so cute. It's a little sprig of thyme, and it tastes so good.
Yes.
Thank you for making this.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you like it.
It's so good.
So before we fully get into anything, is it okay if I do a disclaimer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is our disclaimer. For the purpose of this podcast, we will be focusing mainly on the North American Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Mainly. More on that later. Also to note, this is apparently quite a controversial topic, and we may include controversial people. For the purpose of this podcast, we will be discussing more positive points for the existence of the creature, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But we will, as always, highly suggest that you do your own research. We are not endorsing any information as fact, and we do not mean any disrespect to any person, place, culture, or thing.
Thank you. That was a beautiful disclaimer.
There's a lot of passion in the Bigfoot community, both positively and negatively. It's really surprising.
If you scroll through the Reddit,
It's
people get heated.
like really heated though.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect that for it's Bigfoot, so I shouldn't be surprised. But it struck me.
Yeah. So be prepared if you do your own research. People have strong opinions either way.
That's true. Maybe also prepared to be offended.
Like a little bit, yeah.
Kind of. Like
Bigfoot has been described as ape-like, but more humanish. Many researchers believe that he could be the missing link between apes and humans.
so freaking cool.
Yeah, so he's like right smack dab in between. If you imagine a human and an ape, he's like in the middle. Exactly.
Right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. He usually has black, brown, or reddish hair, and it was described as hair in most of the sources that I found, and not fur, which is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, black, brown, or reddish hair. There's been some accounts where he has like salt and pepper hair.
Right.
But it's still mainly darker.
Mm-hmm. 6 to 9 feet tall, but occasionally even up to 10 to 15 feet tall.
Some people say that he can get up to 17 feet tall.
That's
But
wild.
15 and 17 feet, there's not that much difference between them. So he's just big. Like, he's really big.
Yeah, he's big, and he has big feet also. I said that with so much earnestness, I'm sorry.
That was amazing. Newsflash.
It's in the name. He can weigh up to 1,000 pounds, but usually in between like 300 to like 700, I'd say.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I don't have much to say on his weight. I mean, I feel like it's a personal matter, but...
We shouldn't speculate.
No. Any weight that Bigfoot might weigh is the perfect weight for them.
Yes, we love Bigfoot. And support Bigfoot.
Support.
Fully,
Absolutely.
100%. Going back to the big feet aspect. Its feet are usually as big as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide, and sometimes they even have claws. And you can tell because there's prints, and there's like clay prints.
Plaster molds.
Thank you. Plaster molds. You have them, and then you do them, and then sometimes you can see claws.
That is really scary. Okay, wait. Would claws technically just be overgrown toenails?
I feel like claws are different because they're pointed.
Okay.
Like sharp.
This is true.
But also, because like cats, when they're outside, they weigh down their claws, right? Or like they wear them down. So like I imagine Bigfoot would do the same if they're walking around on like their
feet. That would make sense, right?
Yeah.
And if they're like apes where they can use both their hands or their feet, which I'm assuming that they can do because they have that one special ridge in their foot that I can't remember what it's called, but it bends in the middle. I am not prepared for this, apparently. I'm really sorry. What is that called?
Like an arch?
But they have like a special... In their foot, they have something that we don't have, in which the arch of their foot actually bends.
Okay.
Up.
For better grip.
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was going with that.
I don't know where you were going either, but it's good to know.
Okay, cool.
While we're describing big feet, we need to discuss the feet. Sometimes the eyes glow, kind of like a cat's do when you like shine a light at them at night. Which is interesting because we don't have that. It's like a special rod or cone in the eye that makes it reflective.
That's fair. We do have that in certain types of flash photography, which is very unfortunate.
The last point I have is that he smells really bad.
That's very unfortunate.
Like, really bad. One of the relatives that we'll talk about is the skunk ape,
Mm-hmm.
named for the smell.
Yeah, that's a pretty self-explanatory name, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what you're getting into when you smell a Bigfoot.
True.
In fact, it's one of like the things that people remember about him, or it's like the first warning sign that he's coming. It's the smell.
True. It's I think it's kind of either you smell him or you have this immense sense of fear.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I find that interesting because like nobody talks about how bears smell bad, so it seems just like a very unique thing to Bigfoot, not like a general animal smell.
Maybe Bigfoot stinks because he's closely related to humans and he just hasn't learned how to bath yet.
That's what I think, probably.
If someone just left deodorant out for him and like soap,
yeah,
they probably wouldn't smell anymore.
We don't want that. We don't want a Bigfoot that can sneak up on you.
This is true.
Yeah.
It's probably, they probably smell for like a reason, like inherently in nature.
Yeah, like to scare things off.
Yeah,
off.
or like warn people that they're coming.
Interesting. Well, like we'll get into whether Bigfoot is friendly and kind or not.
I did want to say that the name Sasquatch comes from a Salish word meaning wild men, as per Encyclopedia Britannica.
Citing your sources.
We cite sources here.
You do.
For safety reasons. I will cite all my sources in this episode for safety reasons.
Do you think the Bigfoot enthusiasts are going to come for you?
Yes. I'm scared.
That's funny. Bigfoot is largely believed to be nocturnal and solitary, although groups have been reported, and we'll get into that during one of the stories that I have. It prefers the wooded, mountainous areas that are far away from people, and it throws rocks or knocks on trees as a territorial display and communication. It's believed that that's why he does it. But if you're outside camping, in the outside, and you hear like knocks or like calls, and it gets kind of like weird. Like we watched some Bigfoot, Finding Bigfoot.
Finding Bigfoot. Amazing.
Yes.
It's just so fun.
Very good, but a little bit weird when they start, using the calls and stuff.
I mean, it's true.
He doesn't sound like you would expect him to sound, according to some researchers. But we did talk more about the sounds that Bigfoot makes in the last podcast episode during the Sierra Camp Sound section. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, that's true. For a little bit more info about Bigfoot, go check that out. Apparently, Bigfoot has been observed, possibly. Apparently, maybe potentially leaving deer skeletons high up in the trees to mark its territory.
Okay, well, that's a little bit morbid, but nature's morbid.
Nature is morbid.
Maybe don't listen to this episode if you're, like, a little queasy, but...
Yeah, fast forward to this part.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah, so back to the way that it sounds, apparently. It speaks in howls, screams, moans, grunts, whistles, and has even been observed making, like, language-like sounds. Like in the last episode, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm. And, like, with the Hawaiian Littlefoot, which I'm going to mention briefly here shortly, they also make almost, like, English-like sounds, but not quite. Like, you can almost pick out what they're saying, but then you realize that they're not speaking a language you can actually understand.
Yeah, I think it was called samurai chatter.
Wow, you have a good memory.
Thank you. It freaked me out a lot.
Oh, that's why. Yeah. Okay, I see.
That kind of, like, plays into how intelligent people believe that he could be. So, like, is Bigfoot intelligent to the human level, or is it more animal? Does he have language? Does he have...
Well, if you think about dolphins, because dolphins specifically have, like, 2 brains. Dolphins are way smarter than humans. They literally have, like, more brain power than humans do. So naturally, they would be smarter. So, like it said, if you taught a dolphin math, it would be able to solve it way better than a human.
I believe it.
Me too. So, like, Bigfoot is probably way smarter than us.
Yeah. Because you'd have to be to, like, hide, And if we'll get into, like, maybe he's, like, not an animal necessarily and more, like, supernatural.
True.
He could be super intelligent.
Yeah. He could be, like, scarily intelligent.
What if you just, like, were walking and then you stumbled across, like, a whiteboard with, like, math equations on it?
In the forest? I would leave immediately. That would be the most terrifying thing. Literally. Ew. Okay, so if we're talking about Bigfoot here as a species, species have subspecies. Okay, so in the North Americas, we have Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Those terms are kind of used interchangeably, along with other specific terms like the skunk ape, as you mentioned, and the Boggy Creek monster, something along those lines. In Nepal, or the Himalayas, we have the Yeti and the Abominable Snowman. In Australia, we have the Yowie. China, we have the Yeren. Really sorry. Indonesia, we have the Orang Pandek. I'm really sorry if my pronunciation is not there. Central Asia and Mongolia, we have the Almas. Hawaii, we have the Littlefoot. Vietnam, we have the Tauri. Mapinguari, we have... Oh, in the Amazon. In the Amazon, we have the Mapinguari.
Mapinguari.
It sounds so cool.
It's fun to say.
Isn't it? Yeah. That's why I started with that instead of the correct name of the place. Sorry. And I don't know exactly how to say this, but in certain cultures, I wanted to say this. The Wendigo.
Okay.
We're gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. That's freaky. I didn't know that was, like, considered a cousin, though.
It's considered a very, very distant cousin that I've only seen in 2 places.
Okay.
But I felt like, 2 is more than 1, so it probably should be included.
Yeah, you're right. 2 is more than 1. That's funny. Okay. So to get into the origin of the specific North American Sasquatch or Bigfoot that we're talking about today, Indigenous people have been telling stories about it for, 1,000 years, at least, easily, right?
Ever since stories were invented.
Yeah. There have always been stories about Bigfoot, and these stories span across tribes and regions from California to Washington to British Columbia, because Bigfoot really likes the West Coast.
You know what? Oddly, he does. Mm-hmm. They do. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to gender Bigfoot. I'm really sorry if I do that.
It could be like a group, too.
True. Mm-hmm. I mean, there has to be more than one Bigfoot.
We will be, wildly changing from different pronouns to refer to Bigfoot just because,
We're just so freaking excited. And I also have a stuffy that I meant to bring today whose name is Bo, and Bo identifies as a he.
Yeah, we should post a picture of
I think I have one picture of him wearing the Bigfoot slippers with a top hat.
That's so cute.
It's my favorite picture.
We should post that.
Okay, I'll find it and send it.
Take a look at our Instagram for that. Weird Things and Wine, I think. That's what it's called.
Weird Things and Wine. It's B.O. is his name, by the way, that you'll see on Weird Things and Wine at Instagram.
Yeah, Bigfoot really likes the West Coast.
He does.
He really likes those areas.
It's true. I think if you follow, the mountain lines, he really... Anywhere that there's, a mountain, he likes.
Yeah, especially the Californian mountains.
True.
Also the Rocky Mountains. There's a few towns.
Should we, go on a tour?
Like a Bigfoot hunting tour?
Yes.
we should take, a camping trip and genuinely try to find Bigfoot. Things to think about. It would take a dramatically long time to go into all the stories that have spanned throughout all the cultures the past thousands of years.
Very true.
So I'm going to start with modern stories of Bigfoot, which began in August 1958.
Okay.
So, a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew discovered large 16-inch human-like footprints in the Six Rivers National Forest in California. Many other loggers in the area corroborated these claims, so it wasn't just this one guy saying, this is what happened. Eventually, the creature that made these footprints was dubbed Bigfoot by the local newspaper, which was called the Humboldt Times. So, in 2003, it was revealed that the prints were actually hoaxed by a man named Ray Wallace, who was a co-worker of Jerry Crew. So his sons came forward, and I think Ray Wallace had already passed away at this point, so they were like, hey, this actually was fake.
FYI.
FYI. But still, Humboldt County is considered largely the Bigfoot capital of the world. And nowadays, sightings of the North American Bigfoot range in the 10,000s, with most reports coming from the Pacific Northwest. And Jane Goodall believes that they exist, or at least she really wants them to. Shout out to Jane Goodall. If you ever want to come on the podcast, you are welcome.
If you have nothing to do ever, we're here anytime of the day at all.
Let's get a drink. Yeah.
Before you get in, because I think we're at the point now where we're going to start giving some evidence. Could I give some resources? Mm-hmm. Okay. I only have 2. So, Bigfooting is a profession. Squatching is also a profession. Yes. There are a few groups that have put in a lot of effort to be a place where evidence can be compiled and reviewed to see if it's authentic or maybe less authentic. So there's 2 names that kept popping up over and over again. I'm sure there are way more, but these are just 2 that kept popping up. You will know both of these names.
Okay.
So we first have the North American Bigfoot Search, which is nabigfootsearch.com. It was founded in 2004 by Mr. David Politis.
Who we talked about in the last 2 episodes, actually.
Oh, yes. We're going to talk about him again today.
Ooh, okay.
So, as a brief review, Mr. Politis had a career in law enforcement before becoming a cryptozoologist, specializing in Bigfoot research. He's written 2 books on Bigfoot, The Hooper Project, Bigfoot Encounters in 2008, and Tribal Bigfoot in 2009. Okay, when I was looking at this site and the other site that I'm going to talk about, they both have messages, and I felt it appropriate to reiterate their messages.
Okay.
Their message reads, "We are the most professional Bigfoot organization in the world. We are dedicated to researching all aspects of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, wildmen phenomena. We are a group of seasoned researchers and investigators. We are committed to maintaining scientific principles in all aspects of our research. Our goal is to obtain the confidence of the local community, gather as many witness sightings as possible, and couple that with extensive fieldwork and technically oriented surveillance, evidence gathering, and follow-up modeling.
Okay.
It's quite a statement. It's very powerful.
It is. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very excited for the information that you have tonight.
I'm so excited about the information that I have tonight. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the second website.
Okay.
Again, there are way more. Do your own research. So we have next the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or the BFRO for short. BFRO.net.
That sounds familiar.
It should.
Okay.
Founded in 1995 by Mr. Matt Moneymaker of Finding Bigfoot.
Matt Moneymaker.
Yeah.
Did we ever find out if that's a fake name?
I looked it up.
Oh.
As far as I can find, that is his real name. Literally, the web is dry of his name information.
I like
it has to be his real name, but it's weird.
I mean, okay, so he has the most business professional name ever.
Oh, and he has used it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he is the reason that Finding Bigfoot is a show. Because he founded the BFRO, and then Finding Bigfoot was like, wow, this guy is cool. And his name is Matt Moneymaker, so let's make a show about him.
Yeah, because he'll make us money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt the Moneymaker, that's correct. I really like you, Mr. Moneymaker. I don't mean any disrespect to you or your name.
I wonder if his middle name is the... If I was his parents, I would do that. 100%.
Oh my gosh. So he reportedly became interested in Bigfoot shortly after turning double digits. Later, during his college years, he led a few expeditions. His reported first encounter was in the Ventura County Mountains, which are north of LA, where he found Bigfoot tracks and heard a clear howl. His first real-life sighting occurred in July of '94 in the Swampy Wildlife Refuge in Portage County. And then it was after this that Mr. Moneymaker founded the BFRO.
Okay. So Finding Bigfoot is his show, and then the BFRO is the team and all the researchers and stuff around it. Mm-hmm. Can we join it?
I would love to. God, that would be incredible. Let me read you his statement first, or the website statement, because it was after I read these two messages that I realized they needed to be documented. So his message says, the BFRO is now the oldest and largest organization of its kind, a virtual community of scientists, journalists, and specialists from diverse backgrounds. As a result of the education and experience from its members and the quality of their efforts, the BFRO is widely considered as the most credible and respected investigative network involved in the study of this subject.
Okay.
It has always been the policy of the BFRO to study this species in a way that will not harm them. So they don't endorse the game, is just what I wanted to say.
They don't endorse the game.
Like the hunting game.
Yeah. So they don't want to, hurt him.
Or the, literal hunting game, where your aim is to, hunt down Bigfoot. The virtual game. Yeah, the virtual game. That's what I was going at there. Okay. To point out, the BFRO is the most credible and respected investigative network, and the NA Bigfoot Search is the most professional Bigfoot organization in the world.
Okay, so they both are competing.
They are. Okay. It's very clear.
Okay, interesting.
There's quite a few things going on.
Wild.
This is what I was saying when there's a lot of animosity,
Yeah. Whose side are you on here?
See, I don't know. I feel like I have to be on both.
I feel like their general aim is
the same.
Yeah, they both want to find Bigfoot and
in a nice way.
Him.
Exactly. Yeah.
We do not endorse the hunting or hurting or harming of killing of any Bigfoot
or animal.
Let's
be real.
Yeah. Our friend Ash just walked by, and I was reminded of something that they said one time. So I'm gonna say it. Ash, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'm talking about something you said to me.
Okay.
I was reminded about something I didn't write down because we're talking about Bigfoot.
You guys were talking about Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I know.
So our dear friend Ash is here. And one time they told me that if you give Bigfoot a pebble, if Bigfoot likes a pebble, then you will become friends with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Or he'll kill you if he doesn't like the pebble, right?
Well, I didn't
Presumably.
That's just what I'm assuming.
I have never heard that, but that's amazing.
Yeah. So if you're ever walking around and you're worried about Bigfoot, just carry like a nice pebble in your pocket so you can give it to him if you encounter one.
You probably have to, like, find a pebble that speaks to you, you know? Like, all of a sudden you're walking and you just happen to look down and there's a pebble.
Yeah.
That's, like, calling out to you.
Yeah, or like a crystal.
It's good to have, like,
true.
you know?
Honestly?
Yeah, give him a
Just, like,
choice.
keep finding them, and then you can, like...
So true. Just offer all three.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Just handfuls. You're just walking around with pockets full of pebbles.
Don't you guys?
That's how you make friends with Bigfoot.
If you're going outside.
Gotta plan ahead.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You gotta be safe here.
We have another drink now.
Oh, heck yeah, we do.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Okay, so I'm gonna change the name. So technically, this drink is called Sex in the Woods.
Oh, like a sex on the beach?
Yes.
But in the woods.
Yes. So we're gonna call this Sex in the Forest because we've put the sprig of thyme back in, which makes it look like a tree. So that's how you do it with drinks. You just change something and then you can change the name.
Isn't the forest the same as the woods?
But forest sounds more appropriate.
You're right. It's a better name.
Woods makes it sound like stumpy. Forest makes it sound like greenery.
You're right. It's really good. It's strong. Okay, I have a listener story for us.
This is so exciting. Thank you so much, listener, for sending in your story. What the heck?
This comes from an anonymous listener who is 52, female, and lives in Canada. She says that she lives in an area that isn't known for Bigfoot sightings, but she's always hoped to see one. So,
Same.
Yeah. I'm going to read this word for word, everything that she said. It
Okay.
blew my mind when I read it.
Oh my gosh, I have not heard this. I'm so ready.
Okay, so the details of the story make me question my own sanity, even though it happened to me. It was a snowy night in December, approximately 9:40 at night. I was traveling on a major road in our area and coming up to an overpass along the highway. I'm driving a 1500 Dodge Ram truck. I'm sorry if that's not how I'm
Dodge
supposed
Ram
to say
1500.
that. Yeah, one of those. And this is important for size comparison.
Smart. Holy.
Yeah, right? She's so smart. Thank you, anonymous listener.
We appreciate you.
The intersection was well lit, and it was snowing but not super heavy, blizzard style. As I approached the intersection, just before I got to the first lamppost, I saw, out of the right side of the windshield, a very large person.
Ooh, I got chills.
Now, it was snowing on a snowy road, so I was driving well below the 100-kilometer speed limit. That's how you know it's in Canada. Kilometers.
Honestly.
And it was backlit because of the streetlights, so it was very clear to me. Of course, I slowed down even more, thinking that it might be a bystander from the accident scene or someone needing help. But as I passed, the head of the person was level with the upper right corner of the windshield. That is pretty huge, considering that I was driving a truck. It easily was bigger than me by 2 feet, and the body frame was huge as well. But here's the hard-to-believe part.
Okay. Wow. Oof.
It was wearing a fedora and a trench coat.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, what the heck? I looked in the side view mirror as I passed, and it just hopped the cement dividers along the highway and disappeared. It was just gone. So yeah, I know that seems like it was a person, but this person would have had to be bigger than Andre the Giant. Weird, I know, but that's my Bigfoot story.
Okay, you know when, like, the hair on your head, like, the hair on your head, like, lifts?
Yeah.
I have that feeling at
Yeah.
the moment. Literally, Bigfoot plus Men in Black. Do you think the Men in Black hired a Bigfoot?
Wow. That is a really interesting thing. Do we need to talk about Men in Black next?
I don't have anything on them in this podcast, but maybe we need to next time.
Wild. I was scrolling through the Reddit, and there wasn't a whole lot of information about it, but there was a post about Bigfoot wearing clothes. So this is not the first encounter that I've ever heard where a Bigfoot was wearing some sort of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love
That is amazing.
I love that it was wearing a fedora and a trench coat.
Literally,
Like it was trying to disguise itself.
literally amazing. Also, I could picture in certain areas around where we live, Because some people like fedoras and trench coats around here for some odd reason. Like, I'm not kidding. We went to school with one kid that exclusively wore a fedora trench coat.
No judgment.
No, it's just the area that we
So Bigfoot was trying to blend in.
That is honestly crazy. I love that, though.
It kind of makes me think, like, what was Bigfoot noticing about humans that he wore, like, the quintessential disguise? Like, a fedora and a trench coat? Was he just watching, like, old black and white movies?
Could you... Oh, ew. Okay, wait, I just had a really scary thought.
Okay.
What if there was, like, an old lady that lived in, like, a cottage, and all she watched was, like, old black and white movies, and he just watched through the window?
Ew.
Then that's why he got the idea.
Oh my gosh. And she, like, because she had, like, a husband, you know? Now she's living alone, but she used to have a husband, and
yeah.
has a fedora and a trench coat. So one day he just sneaks in there, grabs it,
And just
he's like,
walks out.
Yeah.
Listener, I'm really sorry. I mean, I am sorry, but I'm also really not sorry that this happened to you, because this is amazing.
I'm really glad that you were safe in a car while it happened.
Also true. And that you're brave enough to share.
Thank you for sharing, and we really appreciate you, and we would love to hear more listener stories. So, if anyone wants to send one in, we'll cover it whenever.
Yeah. Even if it's, like, not on any topic, we can, like, have a podcast based around a listener story.
That would be so fun. WeirdThingsAndWine@gmail.com.
We're waiting.
Okay. Wow.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, totally unrelated, but one of my favorite iPhone games is called Sneaky Sasquatch from the App Store, and it's about a Sasquatch that is pretending to be a human, essentially. So he has to sneak around and, like, steal trash, and then eventually he gets clothes, so then he's not recognized by people. But then eventually he has to get a forest ranger's outfit, because the forest rangers can tell that he's still a Sasquatch in people's clothes. It's the funnest freaking game I've ever seen. I am so in love with this game. It's just the funnest thing ever. You get people jobs eventually, but also you band with the animals to try and save, like, the park against the bad people.
Fun.
So, like, you get jobs with, like, higher up people to try and uncover them so that they don't, like, tear down your, like, forest.
Okay.
It's
Wow,
just-
that sounds so fun.
God. Literally the most it's my favorite game. Apart from Mario Kart, top 2. Like, top
Really?
1. They share the top 1 spot.
You might need to, like, show
On
me
the
this
phone.
in depth later.
Literally, if you want to play.
Because that sounds so fun. So, let's talk about the Patterson-Gimlin film. This is probably the most famous piece of Bigfoot evidence that exists ever, anywhere in the universe.
It, like, 100% really put Bigfoot on the map.
Yes. So, usually I would use first names because I like to be close with the people that I'm talking about. But for this specific instance, we're going to use last names so it's easier to tell who is who easier. On October 20th, 1967, the film was shot in Bluff Creek, California. I'm going to go into a bit of the backstory about each of the two men. Roger Patterson was born in 1933 in South Dakota, and he moved to Washington to pursue a career as an amateur rodeo rider.
Love it.
Isn't that cool? He eventually became an avid Bigfoot enthusiast, even self-published a short book of newspaper articles and interviews in 1966, which I could not find.
Yeah, that's me neither.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
It's
I'm
not-
sure it's somewhere, but...
Yeah, it's not on where I can find it. But it was called Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? And he decided to film a documentary kind of based around this idea. Bob Gimlin, the other man in the story, was born in 1931, and he became an expert tracker / outdoorsman / rodeo rider, and he got back in touch with Patterson in 1966 because they were kind of always friends throughout their life. Gimlin himself was skeptical, but he did agree to help Patterson shoot the documentary. The documentary was supposed to be kind of like retellings of Bigfoot encounters.
Patterson and Gimlin were, like, the very first finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put that. So it was going to be partly fictional and partly real, this documentary. So the two men themselves were going to be playing characters, but they were going to be telling real encounters. And they were going to be trying to find Bigfoot, but they didn't really expect to find him.
Yeah.
Yeah. They chose the Bluff Creek area because it was known for Bigfoot sightings, and Patterson was familiar with the area. He had been there before. There were many tales around this area and actual prints that were found, so that's kind of why they decided to do it there. I didn't write this properly.
I think it makes
which is why
sense.
I'm stuttering. So the film was shot on 16mm camera, which is quite good for the time. Patterson went out and rented the best camera that he possibly could because he was so excited about this. And I think Patterson himself kind of had like a lot of big ideas and a lot of ambition throughout his life, and this was kind of seen by the people around him as like something he cared about, but also he cared about a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah. So the specific area the film was filmed in was lost due to overgrowth until 2011.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah. It wasn't up until fairly recently that people were able to actually go back to the specific area that they were in.
The specific part of the film.
Yeah. Okay, so before they set out on this journey, they both agreed that if they did encounter Bigfoot, they would not shoot it. They would not harm it unless they had to, like if it attacked them. But they were going to be peaceful and calm about this and not hurt it. And I think a lot of Bigfoot researchers kind of emulate that. Nobody really wants to hurt Bigfoot. They just want to find him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are Bigfoot hunters, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they're kind of more like outsiders, outliers.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the consensus of the Bigfoot community,
No.
generally.
The morning of the Bigfoot film, which was filmed, again, October 20th, 1967, they had been camping, and Patterson was sleeping in while Gimlin was out riding in the area. When Gimlin got back, Patterson was gone, but he returned pretty quickly and suggested that they go out to find something to film. So this is important because, like, where did he go? But he probably
True.
just went out to, like, use the washroom or something. That's, like, what people generally believe.
Yeah.
So they were riding upstream at around 1:30 p.m. when they came upon a figure on the other side about 25 feet away. It stood up from a crouch as soon as it was spotted and started walking away from them, swinging its arms and not rushing. Patterson's horse got spooked, and he quickly got off, grabbed his camera, not his gun, started filming, and ran after it. He realized at this point that he was seeing a Bigfoot, a female, 6 to 7 feet tall and around 350 to 400 pounds. Later, he said that it could have been around 7.5 feet tall, and Gimlin said that it was 6 feet tall. So there's a bit of discrepancy with how big the creature actually was.
I mean, that's fair.
Generally, people do agree that it was a female Bigfoot,
True.
which is interesting because you don't really hear that very often.
No, even in a lot of videos. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of the only videos of a female Bigfoot.
Exactly. And it's very obviously female.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you watch the film, you will see why. Don't be creepy about it, though.
Don't be weird.
No. Also, can I just say, if I was in a position where I had to identify how tall and heavy something was, I don't think I could do it. So, I'm already impressed.
Yeah, so the reason that they were able to kind of say with such accuracy, like 7.5 feet tall is not like between 6 feet tall, it's not like that big of a discrepancy.
True.
There is a bit of one, but the reason that they were able to tell that is because they were both hunters. So they kind of would be able to tell how big a creature was from a distance. So like you and I all I know is that someone's like bigger than me.
Literally.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like up in a vehicle, then I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I don't know how to tell, but
No.
since they were familiar with the outside and were hunters, they were able to like be pretty accurate.
So I also just really quickly wanted to mention, it is October this happened, but it's also 1:30 p.m. and we're in California, so it's going to be like bright out.
It's going to be bright, it's going to be warm.
Yeah, you're going to be able to see pretty clearly.
Yeah.
You're not going to be hindered by layers or fog in your glasses or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, pretty quickly, after Gimlin ran after this creature with his camera, he stopped and steadied the camera, and this is when the creature turns to look right at the camera, with a look that is described as one filled with contempt and disgust.
Big words! But, like, it's true. You could see it.
Yeah, she was, like, not having it.
Literally, I would, like, give you the same look. If I was, like, sunbathing and someone started recording me,
Get away from me.
excuse me?
So it was at this point that she starts walking a bit quicker, and it's speculated that up until this point, she had kind of thought that there were only horses, and she hadn't really noticed the men yet. When she realized, oh god, there's people, she was like, oh, I need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Literally me in any situation.
So Patterson had been filming B-roll kind of all morning, so it He ran out of film pretty quickly after Patty disappeared into the woods, and the creature's name is Patty.
Yay!
Named after Patterson, of course, and I think Bob Gimlin's wife is also named Patty, so it's like kind of a connection between them that I really think is cute.
That is really sweet.
Mm-hmm. All in all, the film lasts less than a minute, and the entire encounter was like 2 minutes. And there is other footage. There's like proof of the B-roll existing, and it's just them like riding around on their horses. Gimlin tried to follow the creature, but was called back by Patterson as he was getting worried that there might be another one in the area. And he didn't want to be left alone without his horse.
That is actually really smart, to be honest. You can tell that these guys they knew what they were doing in the outdoors.
They did. So they quickly found the horse that ran off and reloaded the film camera, then followed the Bigfoot tracks up into the mountains until they lost sight of them. Then they made plaster casts from the clay from the creek. There was like a creek, right? She was like by the water. So there's like footprints, and they made plaster casts of it. And Gimlin himself even tried to like jump into the clay to kind of gauge the weight of the creature. And he couldn't make one as deep as the footprints.
Brilliant.
So she's big, she's heavy, she's a big girl, and we love her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the prints were about 14.5 inches long and 6 inches wide.
Which is big.
Big.
So a size 9 foot would be just under 10 inches. Okay, a size 10 is 11 inches.
Okay.
So she would be like 3 sizes above a size. She'd be like a size 14.
Okay. Interesting. Patterson and Gimlin pretty much immediately sent the film to be developed. They didn't even realize that they had caught much of anything at this point because they weren't able to review the footage immediately.
It's an older camera. It's not, there's no reviewable ability.
So they went into town. They called a reporter at a local paper who wrote a story for the next day. There were a couple of Bigfoot researchers known in the community. John Green and Renata Hinden, I believe, both of them went to this area and investigated this and kind of corroborated that the prints existed and the film existed.
Essentially, what we're saying is that this film is real and proven.
Yeah, and it's film, which really can't be digitally altered.
Yes.
So the only way that it could have been faked is if there was like a person in a suit.
But also, the detail that the suit would have had to have is remarkable. And maybe not possible, even.
Maybe not possible. There's actually a man named Philip Morris who owned a costume shop at the time, and he claims to have made the suit. He claims that he sent it to Patterson in 1967 to be used he thought it would be used in a prank. And then a man named Bob Hieronymus claims to have worn the suit for the film, but the two men's descriptions of the suit are wildly different, and they don't match up to what was actually there in the video. Neither of them have provided any evidence of this existing, no receipts, physical actual receipts. Nothing. They don't have the suit, they don't have anything about it. Neither of them have adequately replicated the suit since. So Patty bends her knees and her toes in a way that someone in a suit could conceivably not do. And her arms are much longer than a regular person's, but you can also see her fingers moving. You can also see the muscles moving. When she walks, you can see like the muscle and the fat below the fur. You can see it moving. So,
which that you cannot do in a suit.
No. I think it was compared to, at the same time, Planet of the Apes came out, the original, and the suits in that one are much more rudimentary, even though they are like Hollywood, you know?
So you're gonna tell me that someone from Bluff Creek,
someone from this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, made a better suit than Hollywood did? Like a team of experts?
I believe it, for sure.
The suit would have been incredibly expensive to make. Not only that, but the level of detail would have been nearly impossible to replicate. Even experts in costume making for movies and films say that they couldn't replicate that kind of detail. They couldn't have made that, and it has not since been properly replicated.
Including, like, her face.
There's such a clear shot of her face.
She's literally looking
directly at them. And I feel like if they had faked this, if this had been a man in a suit, they wouldn't have lingered on it. They wouldn't have had it look at the camera because it's so much easier to tell if it's fake then.
True. With how long the video was and what they had her do. What they would have had the costume her do. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
for a hoax.
really make sense, no. To this day, this film is regarded as the most credible piece of evidence of Bigfoot, and like I said, John Green and Renee Hinden, experts, believe that it's real. Roger Patterson unfortunately passed away from cancer in January 1972, so shortly after the film was filmed, but he never wavered in his commitment and his belief that this was real. Bob Dylan himself didn't talk much about the film until around 2005, as he didn't like the attention that he got from it. He thought that Patterson had benefited from it more than he had, and that he was kind of cut out of it.
That's unfortunate.
But he believes it, and he was a skeptic to begin with, but he believes it now, and he's still alive. And he's been on
a bunch of things.
Yeah. Astonishing Legends is one of them. And if you ever want to spend, like, so much time and, like, enjoyment digging into this, listen to their 6-part series about the Patterson-Gimlin film. It's so good, and it's so in-depth, and I cannot possibly even begin to, like, replicate the amount of information that they put into that. But they did do an interview with Bob Dylan, and it's really interesting. So, go and listen to that.
Also, I unfortunately did not get to watch this, but he did either star in or help produce Man vs. Bigfoot in 2021. I think it's a movie.
Okay.
Yeah. There's, like, nowhere to watch it. Like, I legitimately cannot get it on anywhere.
Really?
Yeah. I was really annoyed.
That is annoying.
I was like, come on. Oh, okay. Also, I see. He starred in this film.
Oh, so he was like, it was like a documentary?
No.
Oh.
It's another story, but he was in the film. So I'm assuming that means he also had some input into the film to make it as realistic as possible, because he, like, lived through an encounter.
Yeah. It's wild. I didn't know most of this stuff until I started researching it. Like, obviously I'd seen the video, but I didn't know. You know?
Yeah. And especially when you think about the fact that, like, they did go out there with the intent to film. Not necessarily a real Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's not a fact that they would share.
Right.
If they were hoaxing this.
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense that it would be a hoax. And if you've seen the video, it looks so real.
It does.
Like,
it's scarily real.
Even to this day, there's nothing that I've seen that makes me feel the way that that film feels. In terms of credibility.
Especially, like, today's videos, which is odd because today's cameras are so much better, but, like, they still are not to the quality that that film was.
Yeah. And the fact that it could not have been, like, digitally altered. The only way they would have been able to fake it is a man in a suit. And that there's almost no way that they could have made that suit. It's wild.
It's brilliant.
There's no mistaking it for anything else. It's not a bear.
It's also not an ape.
It's a Bigfoot. It's wild.
One of my favorite so-called facts of life is this film.
Yeah. I love it. Are you going to tell me about Theodore Roosevelt?
Heck yeah, I am.
Okay, I'm excited.
Alrighty. So, if the name Theodore Roosevelt sounds familiar to you, I mean, it, like, maybe should. He became the 26th President of the United States in September 14th of 1901. Mr. Roosevelt was known very much so as an adventurer or an outdoorsman. He was a very well-versed hunter. In 1893, before he became president, he wrote The Wilderness Hunter, which details some of his hunting experiences. And in this book, it's possible that he wrote about a Bigfoot encounter.
Okay,
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay, so I'm going to try and paraphrase this because I don't want to, be rude and steal his stuff word for word. So,
Fair enough.
Also, please, like, read his stuff. Like, for real. If you can find it, if you can get your hands on the book, like, get it, because it's really interesting.
Yeah?
Yes. If you want to learn about hunting specifically. This encounter, he did not live this, but he heard this through one of the men that lived through it. I'm guesstimating that this is around the 1960s. Or we're guesstimating that it's around the 1960s. So sorry. The 1860s. Wow, words are hard, man. So, we have two relatively well-versed trappers who are having a particularly poor time at their normal spot, so they decided to try somewhere new. Mr. Bauman is the gentleman that lived to tell this tale. They never actually name the other man that was involved in this, so you're only going to hear me talking about Bauman, and the other man.
Okay.
The two men decided to try trapping in an area that had experienced a fairly brutal murder and mutilation of another hunter only the year before. Oh. Now, again, these men are tough. So this did not bother them at all. They're literally hunters. So, like, they're not afraid of anything. The area that they ended up in was, quote unquote, very thickly forest and with little sunshine. So once they set up, they decided to have a look around. And upon their return, they noticed that something had gone through their camp because some things had been scattered and some equipment had been broken. Because they didn't notice anything else, they just sort of assumed, oh, a bear must have come through looking for food or something. So they continue on. So Bauman went on to make dinner, and the other man decided to more closely examine some of the bear tracks, which apparently were left. Now, upon looking at them further, he realized that they actually looked more like footprints from a two-legged creature.
Ooh, spooky.
I know. For some reason, again, this didn't spook them, probably because they literally had, like, weapons.
Right.
Night fell, and they decided to go to sleep. Because, I mean, even if there was a human walking through their camp, the person's not there now, so, you know, what much are they going to do?
Okay.
Also, apparently at this time, they did not notice the size of the footprints. Later on in the night, Mr. Bauman was awoken with a terrible smell and an upright figure near the end of his blanket. So from this wording, they're not sleeping in a tent. They're just like in like a sleeping bag, like in the middle of nowhere.
People do that apparently.
How? You gotta be like an outdoorsman, like for real, an outdoors person. As I've mentioned numerous times, they are trappers and hunters. So they sleep with their rifles like next to them. So Mr. Bauman's rifle was right next to him. He just grabbed it and started just firing.
He like didn't even stop to make sure that
literally
it
wasn't
human.
I guess not. Okay. I mean, quick reflexes. Good thing, bad thing? I don't know. I mean, it's nighttime also, so he most likely missed and didn't catch anything. Or, you know, the bullet didn't catch anything.
Right.
This did, however, scare whatever was out there away. Because I don't know what time of night this happened, but presumably it was still dark, I also don't know if both men, like, stayed awake or if they, like, went back to sleep. I'm imagining that they didn't.
How could you?
Well, see, I don't know. And then also, I don't know how early trapping would have started. So I don't know if maybe they just were woken a little bit early and they were like, oh, well, let's just start early. You know? I don't know. I'm sorry. There's some things that I don't know. But the next day goes on and they leave their camp and they do their trapping. When the day is done, they return back to camp to a very familiar scene as the day before. So their campsite had been quote-unquote destroyed. And a much better set of tracks showing a fully bipedal figure with giant human feet had visited their campsite.
Do you think that as he was destroying this campsite, he was like, I'm gonna leave footprints so they know I'm big? Do you think he did that on purpose?
I never thought about it like that, but probably. I mean, they, like, throw giant rocks to show that they're big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, giant footprints would make sense.
Yeah. He was, like,
they
stepping
are
to the
smart. Like, specifically.
Stomping.
This spot looks wet. I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I'm not going to say anything about this next part. I'm just going to, like, speak it because I don't have any words. So they still decided to sleep there for another night after all of this.
I don't know about that, guys.
Honestly. So when they'd finally gotten back into their beds, assuming they're, like, lulling into sleep, but they're not quite sleeping yet, they could hear something really large walking on the opposite side of the creek to them. So across the creek. Now, they tried to get up and, you know, see what was out there, but it was just far enough away that they couldn't see it, but they could hear it. So they didn't get a lot of sleep this night, which shows that they are actually real human beings.
Yeah.
So after everything that had happened and the, you know, traipsing that night, they decided that they were done and it was time for them to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think possibly they were a little bit spooked at this point because they tried to, quote unquote, get out as quickly as possible. So to do this, they split up. So Mr. Bauman, went to get the 3 traps that they had previously laid, while his partner had packed up their camp. Apparently, this took Mr. Bauman quite a long time because they were full, and he returned, like, really a lot later than I expected him to. It was, like, late in the day by the time he got back. Upon his return to camp, he found that his partner had passed by a broken neck with 4 fang marks.
Whoa,
And
wait, what?
Yeah. And these big footprints were found all around his body.
Okay, can we talk about that for a second?
Yes,
That's horrifying.
I know.
Okay, so I had heard about the Teddy Roosevelt story that he had from this guy, Bauman.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know about this. I did not know about this at all.
Me
The
neither.
fang
I didn't
marks?
think- I know. I
Okay.
know.
4 fang marks. Are we talking like he was bitten 4 times? Or are we talking
No,
like...
I think more like he was bitten once and there are 2 sets of top and bottom teeth.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay, but like, that feels very vampire to me.
I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, that's... Because, like, the fact that he said it was, like, fang marks and not, like, this is morbid. Turn it off if you're a child.
This, we might restrict this one. No.
Like, the fact that he said it was 4 fang marks and not just, like, a chomp, like a bite.
True.
Like, his skin was intact. He could tell.
That it was
like,
only...
It just bit him and then...
So, if you... Oh, man. If you think about, like certain feline predators, like, I can't think... I don't know exactly which one, but, like, I want to say it's panthers?
Okay.
Maybe? When they go in to kill something, like, they will just puncture its jugular and like, break its neck. And then they'll take it back to their, like, home to eat the rest of it. So that's like a prey. That's how some animals deal with their prey.
So you're saying that he probably bit him and that's what broke his neck and not that he, like, broke his neck and then bit him?
I mean, I am assuming. So I'm going to read this one last part.
Okay.
So Mr. Bauman clearly noted that his partner had not been eaten at all, but he had been clearly moved around. So he was unnaturally moved, as if whatever had done this was looking at him and examining his limbs and stuff.
Oh, that's objectively horrifying.
I know. So, okay, how I feel about this is if this creature, which we're assuming is Bigfoot, right? If he felt really, really threatened, especially because Mr. Bauman, like, shot at him, which is, like, a clear threat. And he noticed that one of the men was alone and, you know, like, not paying attention. I just, like, imagine that he would have done... I don't think that the bite was, like, in intent to, like, harm afterwards.
So you think that's just how, like...
Yeah.
He was just, like, that's how he killed him?
Yeah. I also don't know where the marks are in like a proportion to the neck. Like, it doesn't say, like, where, if they were all on one side
How would
or
that,
if
like-
they were, like, around. Like, I don't know.
How would that... He'd have to be, like, big to break his neck, because, like, if you bite someone even as
Well-
hard as you can, you're not going to break their neck.
Also, though,
Just
well,
for
like
little.
a human, but like a cat,
Like, yeah, because they can, like, kind of unhinge their jaw like a snake.
they can. And they also are so strong that they can move their body that, like...
That's true,
you're
yeah.
just, like, you know?
Okay.
Especially if Mr. Bigfoot has arms. Just...
Bigfoot. Okay, so, like, that's so scary, because that's, like, such, like, okay, so
It's
the
very
contrast-
intimate.
Yeah. And, like, the contrast of, like, such, like, an animal way to hurt someone, such an animal way to kill something,
But then
the investigation of, like, wanting to know how...
what is this? Yeah.
That's so scary.
I know.
That kind of makes me wonder, almost, if there is... Which we'll get into, if there is, like, almost, like, an alien aspect to this. Because, you know, they abduct people and investigate them.
The more stories you hear about specifically, like, abductions, the more that sounds plausible.
That is so scary.
I know. So I'm gonna make it scarier.
Okay.
I'm just gonna review some key points from the story.
Okay.
So, 1, these humans were stalked by something standing on the opposite side of the creek or around the camp.
He had been watching them.
Yeah. Stalking, watching, observing, yes.
Yeah.
This thing also had a very strong stench. Their campsite was investigated while they were empty. I know I started with numbers, but forget the number thing, okay? I'm not numbering these. There were human-like large footprints. And even though these men were strong, physically strong men, they were very experienced, and they had highly powered weapons, they were still overpowered.
Yeah.
Also, was only overpowered when they were alone.
Yeah, like, he must have been, like, snuck up on, because he...
I'm sure from that night when the Bigfoot was on the other side of the creek, I'm sure from that point onwards, they were watched the entire time, and they waited until there was only one person to take on.
That's so terrifying.
I know.
I actually am, like, kind of upset about that, because I want Bigfoot to be, like, a good guy, but that's, like, so scary.
Well, see, okay, I don't think of this as Bigfoot being a bad guy, because... You know, what did he do? He didn't, like, he took a life. But he also did it in a respectable way where the person was dead pretty much instantly.
I feel, yeah, maybe, like, if he hadn't snuck up on him, maybe he was just, like, walking or, like, coming over to see what they were doing again, and maybe this guy, not to, like, victim blame, he shouldn't have died.
No, this is true. He should not have died.
This happened. He should have died.
Death is bad.
Death is bad. But maybe he shot at him, and then Bigfoot thought that was an attack.
I was wondering as well. Yeah.
So maybe he was just defending himself?
Especially coupled with the shot from the night before.
Yeah. Theodore Roosevelt, he, like, met this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy told him this story.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this guy knew who he was.
He wasn't president yet.
No, he's just a guy.
Yeah, he's just, like, a guy that likes to hunt and maybe likes to run for mayor? I don't know. How do you become a president? You have to be in, like, the system somehow, right?
No, because Donald Trump did it.
No, we don't like to talk. No,
No, we definitely... You're right. Let's move on. That was a really wild story.
I know. This is one where when I was reading, I was like, oh.
That's so... I understand.
Spooky.
Because, like, I've heard about it, but I hadn't heard the details about it, and I didn't know that someone had died.
It is quite scary.
Yeah.
Yes. All of the other stories now that I read, because this was the first one that I looked up, everything else now is just even scarier to me because of this.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't like it, but I am also fascinated by it.
Same.
This is kind of a fun one because it takes place in BC.
I'm excited.
And nobody dies. So I first heard about this story from Astonishing Legends. Because I love them.
Love it.
And I fell in love with it because it's so out there and so fun. And nobody dies. It's great.
The best stories are the ones in which no one passes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Albert Ostman was born in 1893 in Sweden, and then he moved to Canada, kind of Vancouver area, when he was 20, in 1913 to become a prospector. In 1924, he decided to take a camping trip for 3 weeks. He was told of this mine in the Toba Inlet in BC, and he was skeptical, but he had heard of creatures that existed known as the Sasquatch. So he had heard that they lived in the area that he was camping, but he wasn't too concerned about it. He was pretty experienced at this point as a prospector, and he was excited for a bit of a vacation away from the city.
So he didn't necessarily pick this spot because he's like, oh, I'm going to see a Bigfoot here. He just was like, I don't care.
He thought there might be some good, like, prospecting to be done. When he got to this area, he spent 3 nights at each campsite. So he had been kind of camping in this general area, moving campsites each night.
Oh, okay.
Until he found an area that he thought would make a really good, almost semi-permanent site.
Because he was going for a long time.
Yeah, he was going to be gone for a few weeks. He spent 3 nights at this perfect site that he found, and each morning he woke up to find that his site had been disturbed during the night.
Oh, okay.
It's so interesting how Bigfoot is this giant creature, and he smells so bad, but yet you can sleep right through what he does. So
True.
Albert himself was a heavy sleeper and figured that it was probably an animal, so he slept with a rifle and a knife in his sleeping bag.
Man, how crazy to, like, not be scared of bears in BC.
Right?
Or, like, moose. Like, dang. That is like a wow.
I think that Albert is one of those guys who doesn't use a tent either. I think he was just out in the open with a sleeping bag.
Wow. Wow, okay.
It's brave.
That's really brave. I'm very frightened by you, Mr. Ostman.
It's impressive. Ostman? Yeah, I don't know. So on the fourth night at the site, he tried to stay awake to catch this creature, but ended up falling asleep. And he woke to his sleeping bag being carried throughout the night. So he was carried for 3 hours, and he thought that, in retrospect, he thought maybe 25 miles in his sleeping bag. So he was like kind of curled up, and he had his rifle and his knife, but he couldn't really maneuver either of them to like do anything. And he also didn't know what was going on, you know? And at that point, when you wake up and you're like being carried in your sleeping bag, imagine you won't be able to breathe very well because you can't get fresh air in there.
He's in his sleeping bag?
Yeah, he's in his sleeping bag.
What do you mean? Like
he
he's
can't-
like inside? Like
Yeah.
he's like fully inside his sleeping bag?
Yeah, like his sleeping bag has now turned into a sack that he was at the bottom of and he can't see out of.
Oh!
He's not being carried like this.
Totally. Well, I totally thought he was like over the shoulder, like head facing
No.
back.
His head is not out. He has no idea what's
He's
going on.
fully being... Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see.
So all he could tell from inside his little sleeping bag where he can't see anything, he could tell that whatever was carrying him was large and was also carrying his pack of stuff that he couldn't reach, but he could like hear it.
Oh.
And he could kind of tell that they were going over terrain that he wouldn't expect someone to be going over.
Difficult terrain. Okay.
He could also hear it muttering to itself.
Frightening.
Yes, and he couldn't make out the words, you know, but he could tell that it almost sounded like a language, which is a common thing. When he was finally dropped, he found himself surrounded by 4 Bigfoot.
Okay, well, that's scary. That's scary.
He, like, crawls out of his little pack, and he looks around, and there's just, like, these 4 giant creatures looking down at him. And he said that they had wide jaws, a narrow forehead, thick hair all over their bodies, long arms, and thickly padded feet. So Albert believed that there were 2 parents and 2 children, almost like a family. So the largest was the father, 8 feet tall, and this was the one who had carried him to this site.
Makes sense.
He was in a canyon of about 8 to 10 acres that seemed to only have one way in and out. Walls on either side, it was big, but he could tell that there was no real way getting out besides the way that they had gotten in.
Which was really difficult.
Yeah, really difficult, unless you're a Bigfoot, I guess. So he got the feeling that the 2 smaller ones were scared of him, and that the adult female was irritated with the male, like he had brought home a lost puppy or something.
Oh, they're just like us.
So they didn't hurt him at all. They kind of just, like, kept him there. And they fed him sweet grass. So he decided not to, like, fight back. He decided not to use his gun or,
Well,
do
good.
anything to harm these creatures. They fed him sweet grass, and he got the feeling that perhaps this area that they were in was sort of like a stopping point. It wasn't like their home base. They had just, like, come here to have the sweet grass they were feeding him.
Oh, like a delicacy.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, he didn't use his guns. He didn't have a lot of shells, and he didn't think that they would do much against the big one. And he found himself kind of not wanting to hurt them. Like, the way that he describes them, it's so interesting, and I haven't heard anyone talk this way about Bigfoot, but they seemed really human to him. Like, they seemed not animals. They seemed like humans.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah.
There are, like, so many stories of, like, hunters where they have Bigfoot, like, in their, like, rifle, like, shot, and they just, this overwhelming feeling comes over, and they're like, I can't kill this. I can't shoot this. Like, crazy.
I'm like, I would not want to be able to, I wouldn't be able to shoot any animal.
No.
But an experienced hunter should be able to shoot an animal. But there must be something more human about them.
There has to be. That your brain recognizes it as, this is me.
Yeah, like, I can't
this,
kill this.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a human. This would be murder. And that's the way he described it. He said, I can't kill it, it would be murder.
Interesting.
Yeah, when I saw a monkey for the first time, looking into its eyes, it was, like, really unsettling how humans they were. Like, it's a human eye. It looks like it has human feelings and human thoughts, you know? Just, like, in a smaller, hairier body. So the creatures, they seemed fairly intelligent. They had even, like, woven blankets out of moss. Although, oddly enough, when he used, like, empty food containers as, like, a cup for water, they seemed very intrigued by this idea that he could make a cup. So they could make blankets, but they couldn't make cups.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe... Okay, interesting. I guess they would have a need for blankets and not for cups.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right? He didn't observe them cooking or eating meat, but he kind of thought that maybe they did and that they just didn't have any available.
At the time?
Yeah, that's why they were eating this sweet grass. And they didn't seem very surprised when he made a fire. That's intriguing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because it's like, can they make fire themselves?
That's really cool.
So they were very impressed by the cups, but not very impressed by the fire. So the day after he arrived, he tried to leave through the way that they came in, but he was stopped by the big one, and it said something along the lines of, "Soka, Soka." He also had, like, no solid idea of where he was, because, again, he had been in his sack, unable to see out when they had traveled. But he knew that he was, like, far enough from his sight that he wouldn't be able to get back easily. He did have a thought, and this kind of plays into how he viewed them more human than animal. He kind of thought that maybe he could take the younger female with him, because she was friendly towards him, and she wasn't big and scary.
Oh, she was... Oh, okay. So she wasn't herself big and scary, and she also wasn't scared of him.
Yeah. Well, they were, like, the younger two were like,
weary.
hesitant about him, but he had, like, observed them playing in the trees and, like, climbing up the canyon walls.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, so they're, like, super agile in this little canyon that they're in. But he thought that maybe he could take the younger female with him. But then he thought about it a bit more, and he considered that possibly she wouldn't like the city very much.
Really? I wonder.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm so glad that he came to that thought at the end there.
But the way that he described it was sweet. He thought that, like him, she would not enjoy the city.
Like him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's, like, really connecting with these creatures.
That's actually really pleasant.
Yeah. They, like, kidnapped him, and he's like, well, maybe they're not, like, evil. So
Or is this, like, what's that syndrome called?
Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. When he realized that the bigger one, especially, the adult male, seemed interested in the snuff that he had in his pack, he thought that possibly a full container could knock him out.
Oh, okay. I was not expecting the story to go this way.
Yeah,
okay.
well, he has to leave, right? So he's like, I
Okay.
can escape. I'm going to give the big one some snuff, which is, like, in this context, it's kind of probably powdered tobacco, but it could also be, like, chewing tobacco, or it could also possibly be cocaine.
Oh.
So it's one of those three options. We're not really sure which.
Well, all right then. Okay.
But he figured that a big one, like a full can, could knock out the big one, right?
Okay.
So he spent 6 days in this canyon with his family, and he watched the older ones rest and the younger ones play, jumping and climbing, and he opened a new container of snuff one day and offered some to the big one, who took it all.
I mean, that's fair. He's large, you know. He's gonna need a lot.
So the big one eats it, right?
Okay.
Immediately freaks out, panics, because he's like, you know...
He's feeling weird.
It doesn't feel good. It hurts. It burns. You're not supposed to eat it. Even chewing tobacco, you're not supposed to, like, swallow.
Oh, I've never done that. Okay, this makes more sense now. I see.
So he freaks out, and he, like, runs to, like, the water. Ran to the spring to, like, drink some water. And it's, like, the way that he describes it is, like, really cartoonish. He said that he had, like... fallen over, and that he had done what the younger one had done, in the sense that he, like, curled into a ball and rolled towards the stream.
That's actually really endearing.
It's kind of cute, right?
Aww.
This is, like, a very fun story.
Wow, okay. Love the fun vibes. I'm gonna go with it now.
So while the big one was gone, Albert grabbed all of his stuff and ran. And the adult female ran after him, but he shot over her head, specifically, not at her, but over her.
Just like a a warning.
Yeah,
Okay.
to scare her off. And then he ran until he couldn't run anymore. And eventually, he had, like, lost them. They weren't chasing him. And he realized that he was probably safe. So he followed the sounds of logging equipment to a camp. And then he told the workers what had happened, and that he was just a lost prospector because he didn't want them to think that he was crazy. And then he wandered back into the woods.
Why?
And then, like, went, like, 60 miles back to where he had, like, showed up. Which is almost the weirdest part of the story to me. Could you imagine being the logging staff? And this, like, wild man comes out of the woods.
Who's probably, like, really smelly.
Yeah, talking about Bigfoot. Now he had, like, attacked one with snuff. And then wanders back into the woods.
Okay. Why did he wander back into the woods? That's really... Okay. This poor man. This poor Bigfoot family. They were probably horrified after this and never wanted to take a person again.
Which is probably good, but...
Well, I mean, it's good, but also really terrible for Bigfoot-human relations, you know?
It really is. Albert did not tell his story until 1957.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's a while.
That's a while later, yeah.
But since more and more sightings were becoming known, he felt more comfortable coming forward. He didn't want to be viewed as crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, leading professionals in the field did find him credible, even though this is an insane story. Like, this is wild.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he did sign a solemn declaration that swore he was telling the truth.
Wow, okay.
But he also never went prospecting again, which is almost more telling that this outdoors man never went outdoors again.
Wow.
And passed away at 82 in 1975.
Oh. So I just am kind of curious. Never mind. I'm not curious anymore.
What?
I got confused. Never mind. This is BC. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was like, what if the female, because the time is so close, what if the female could also have been the same female that was spotted in the Patterson-Gimlin film?
It's very possible. They walk. They're big. They could walk. You never know.
That's true. And I mean, technically, a lot of mountains are, like, connected.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. I think, like, the California mountains, like, there's so many sightings along there, and then also the Rocky Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really in valleys. He mostly likes mountains.
Remember that for later.
Okay.
Okay.
My favorite part of that story is, though, that, like, he found them so human that he didn't want to hurt them at all.
Agreed.
I like that, because you don't really get that perspective very much. And after the terrifying Bauman story, I feel like we needed something a little lighter.
I'm really glad that you have this story, actually.
Go listen to Astonishing Legends, Albert Osterman.
Please.
It's so good. They go into more detail than I could, but it's so good.
So really experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, will you tell me another story?
Yes.
I'm really enjoying you telling me stories.
I actually really love telling you stories because your reactions are just like amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna now reveal some information to you, which I'm hoping you're gonna go to.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. David Paulides, he has 2 books on Bigfoot.
Right.
I was able to get one.
What is it called?
It's the second one, Tribal Bigfoot. I got the second one first because I was like, he kind of said that this was like a follow-up to the first one with a bit more in-depth. So I was like, this one sounds like good.
Right.
And then after I got it, I was like, oh shoot, I really should get both. But then it was like, it wasn't showing me the second one on my iPad, and then I like couldn't get to it on my like phone, and I was like, what is going on?
Okay.
Do not go on Audible or any other book sites to look up Bigfoot stories because they're all smut stories. Literally not kidding. Like the first bunch, the first one was normal, and everyone after that was like a creepy story.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
did you read any?
I accidentally clicked on the second one because I was like, wow, this sounds like a crazy encounter.
I bet it was.
It's named. It's not like named. You know.
Bigfoot sex?
Yeah, it's not named that. I think it was like something like a chance encounter or something, and I was like, a chance encounter? And then I read the description, I was like, WTF? What is wrong with people? No. Okay, back to the meat and potatoes of this story. Mr. Paulides. This book, the second one of Bigfoot, is like 500 pages long. It's so long.
Okay.
That I did not get to read all of it.
Okay.
So I kind of skimmed through and tried my best to find stories that I wanted to include, which is why I just found Mr. Stewart's story that I was like, oh my gosh, this one's really exciting, but like it's a lot.
Okay.
So
Are all the stories from his book?
they are,
Okay.
apart from one.
Okay.
Again, if you can get your hands on his book, like for real, like do it. It's really cool, and he has like newspaper clippings and like photographs of like footprints alongside his own foot, which I will show you because it's in one of the stories. But like, it's just an amazing book.
I'm so excited.
So before I get into these, like this, He notes that it seems like elevation has some importance somewhere when you're talking about Bigfoot stories. Like, they prefer certain elevations or they act certain ways in different elevations. Like, he's not really sure exactly yet how that ties in, but it definitely does.
Okay.
Because of all the facts.
That's so interesting. Okay.
No! First person from his book I'm going to talk about is Mr. Mel Hester. So, Mr. Hester lives in Yampom, California, USA.
Okay.
So he is a retired area manager for the U.S. Forest Service, and that had been his job for over 40 years. Now, I didn't know what an area manager was.
Okay.
Which made me feel dumb, so I had to look it up. There is a current job opening for a forest area manager in Peace River.
Where's that?
BC, Peace
It's
River.
close?
Yeah, I know. Do you want to be a forest manager? They make like $100,000 a year.
What do they do?
Kind of, they're just meant to, quote unquote, oversee the implementation and delivery of the division, wildfire management, forest health, and forest management. The responsibilities include making sure that the forest is healthy, making sure that it's taken care of, and that any people in the forest are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and also overseeing wildfire prevention, and also being a vital contact for various industry stakeholders, including the indigenous communities and municipalities.
Okay.
So really, you're like the top guy that, like, I think this is what this is saying.
Okay.
You're the top guy that kind of just, like, oversees everything and makes decisions and needs to be nice to everyone, including, like, the animals. Like, it's your responsibility to make sure that the forest doesn't burn down and, like, die of a plague.
Right, okay.
Okay, back to the story. So, back in November of 1970, Mr. Hester got a call from a resident deputy sheriff in the area who had received a call of a prowler on a ranch. So actually, I should say this first. There's a few stories from Mr. Hester. There's not just one. So it's like a few little encounters.
Prowler? I don't like that term.
Yeah. Well, so this ranch, it was like a research bunker, kind of, for teenagers. So they would, I know it sounds suspicious. I was like, this sounds like a party house. But apparently these teenagers would go there and spend a week learning about wildlife and, like, camping.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Right? It's, like, really, like, surprisingly wholesome. When they got there, there were 5 teenagers between the ages of 15 to 19. 19 being the one that I guess was more in charge of, like, the younger kids.
Right.
So the teens had heard something walking around camp, and bravely, they decided to go and check it out, as one does when they're in a horror movie. Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know exactly if they, like, split off into groups, but it ended up being that there was a group of 2 they were walking down one of the trails, and a huge, quote unquote, huge 2-legged creature with hair all over its body, unquote, crossed on 2 legs in front of them. So then they came back and they called the sheriff.
That's so spooky.
I know. So Mr. Hester and the sheriff, they investigated the area and they found 12 tracks. They were 17 inches long and 5 to 8 inches wide. They were apparently pretty clear. And he noted 2 things. One, the tracks were almost in a straight line, as in there was no, like, how someone would walk, like, normally. They were just, like, 1 foot in front of the other, which is, I've never heard that described before. And then 2, that it was, like, really huge strides. Abnormally large strides.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a video the other day about how cats walk, and the way that they walk is they put their paw down, their front paw, and then their back paw gets put in the same place that their front paw was, right?
Oh.
Which I've never noticed before, but that's how they walk. And
I
that kind of
didn't
makes
know
me
that.
wonder if Bigfoot is doing the same thing somehow.
What if Bigfoot walks both on 4, like, on all 4s? So then it's used to doing that feline thing, but then when it walks on 2s, it still does the feline thing, because that's what it's used to.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were going to go with Bigfoot has 4 legs, literally 4 feet.
That's why you were so reactive, I see.
Yeah.
No, that's That's not where I was going with that.
Ooh, but that would, like, the feline thing, they're used to doing that on all fours, and then they stand upright, and they still do that?
Yeah, the same thing with, like, the breaking neck thing.
I was just about to say that. Ew, is
Are
Bigfoot a
we?
feline?
Are we discovering this right now?
That's objectively horrifying.
It kind of is. I don't really like that, but kind of cute to think that Bigfoot walks like a cat.
Yeah, cats are cute.
Now I just picture it more like gently, just gracefully,
Yeah.
like placing the feet down.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I like that. A lot better.
So interesting. Like, why would it be walking
Apparently, that's how it walks.
just, like, in a straight line?
Yeah, like an almost straight line. I don't really understand the like full, bone structure of a Bigfoot. So I don't really understand how that's possible because like I absolutely cannot do that.
I feel like, isn't that how models walk? Is Bigfoot
Well, they
just
do.
strutting through the forest, like sashaying?
Could you imagine? Hip swing. Oh, I love that.
Aw.
Oh. Now we move on to March of 1971. So November, December, January, February, March. 4 months later, like very close to where this happened, Mr. Hester received multiple reports of odd-looking tracks going down the middle of a nearby road. So this road's called Big Bar Road. It's not a main road. So when it snows heavily, the road is closed. And at this time, there was snow on the ground and the road was not drivable and closed. So people passing by saw that there were these really odd-looking tracks down the middle of the road. So obviously, Mr. Hester goes to check it out. And again, he noted very similar things. These tracks were huge. They looked like human feet, the normal stuff. So Mr. Hester, it says that he walks up, elevation-wise, up 600 feet. So now he's at an elevation of 4,400 feet.
Okay.
Which I just thought that was really interesting that you could figure that out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say it. Once he got up there, he was able to see that the tracks were about 20 inches long and that there was a 6-foot stride. And again, that it was in a perfectly straight line, or an almost perfectly straight line.
So weird.
It's crazy. I know.
Whoa. 6 feet?
It's literally taller than me.
Yeah.
By like 2 feet.
I don't know that it is.
By how tall am I?
You're not 4 feet tall.
I'm sorry, I mean 2 inches. Remember when I said math is like hard? And if I saw a whiteboard with math like in the woods, like the most terrifying thing ever.
Ah, that's funny.
I love that you catch that stuff. I'm tall. Mr. Hester is a brave man, for the record, because he followed these tracks for approximately half a mile when they finally, immediately went off an embankment and down a really steep hillside.
The one and only time that I have seen a wild cat, going back to the feline theory, is when it was ahead of us. We were driving in like a Jeep, and it was ahead of us on the road, and all of a sudden it decides that it doesn't want us behind it anymore, so it jumps off an embankment. Is Bigfoot a cat?
Is Bigfoot related in the feline family somehow? Is it like a mixture of 3? Humans, apes, and felines?
Oh my goodness. That would make so much sense, though. Are we discovering something here? Or did we do something? Do we need to contact,
Mr. Politis, please, hear us out.
and Matt Moneymaker and Jane Goodall? Where are their
Please.
numbers?
Oh, dear. We're going to jump ahead a bit. We're not jumping ahead. It's just nothing apparently happened until December of 1991. So again, it's snowy.
That's 20 years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly 20 years later.
I'm paying attention.
You're doing so... Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. So this is still the same sort of area. There's a mountain near Big Bar Road that's called Ray's Peak. And it's apparently in the area, it has a history of really strange activity. Namely, lights or orbs that hovers around close to the tops of the trees. There is a gentleman named Curly Lingerman.
Curly Lingerman?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why you said it like that.
That sounds like a fake name.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
I'm kind of wondering if perhaps I'm now saying his name wrong.
Well, Matt Moneymaker also sounds like a fake name, and we've accepted that as fact.
Okay, well, let's admit. I'm gonna call him Curly. Mr. Curly is how I will refer to him. I mean, like, it just feels better. I feel like I'm showing more respect if I, like, say, like, a nice, you know...
Okay. Like Mr. Bigfoot.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Curly.
Yeah, Mr. Curly. He called up Mr. Hessman. Hester? Mr. Hester. Names are hard, too. So, he called up Mr. Hester because he had seen some strange lights up at Ray's Peak. He asked Mr. Hester to accompany him there to check it out. Brave. Mm-hmm. So, once they got there, Mr. Hester, because he knows the area, he determined that there are no roads where the light was spotted. So they drove as far as they could, and they had to walk the rest. They didn't see anything other than tracks on this night. So Mr. Politis, in his telling of this story, he says that Mr. Hester sort of went back to another story after telling this one. This last one. So we're going to go now to fall of 1975. So back a few years. So when I said before that nothing had happened for like 20 years, that was not true.
Oh, you were like...
I'm trying to tell it. I'm trying to like give the feeling of this book.
Oh, okay. Is it all over the place?
He just tells it really dramatically. Like he writes it almost like an autobiography.
Oh, okay.
There's like gems of information. So if you can just get past how the book is told, like it's really interesting.
All right.
Okay, so Mr. Hester, while he was still working, he had an assignment with one of his coworkers, who he was close friends with, reportedly, named Tom Hutchinson. So their job at that time was to slash burn up on Curlin Ridge, which is around the same area. It was a long day, I'm assuming. So after they had finished, they were heading back to, I guess, the truck to get home. So it's like dusk at this point. It's almost dark, but you can still see where you're going. And all of a sudden, a giant ball of white light appears hovering above them. Not directly above them, but like above them, like a little ways in front.
Was it the moon?
See, I thought that as well, but it apparently was not the moon.
Okay.
So they stayed and watched it for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and it didn't move at all. They noted a few things during this time, because like 2 and 3 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but it really is when you're having an encounter, as most of these encounters will tell you, because most of them are like 2 or 3 minutes. So they said that it was so bright that it lit up the land and the trees underneath where the ball was, like it was daytime, even though everything else in the area was like dark. So it was just right beneath the ball that lit up. And they weren't directly underneath it.
Okay.
After these 3 minutes or so, it like darted away. It moved very quickly away, just above the trees. And then it moved so far away that they could no longer see it. So at some point later, and I'm presuming it's very shortly after the ball moved away, another coworker of theirs who was around the same area radioed them saying, "What the hell was that?" Can I say hell here?
The hell isn't a bad word.
What the hell was that?
Okay.
Yes, so they noted a few more things altogether. So this ball of light made no sound. It only made light that painted the ground directly beneath it. Now, all of these men are like professional men. They have very high-paying jobs. They take them seriously.
Yeah.
And there's 3 people now that have seen the same thing. So they all together, they guessed that the orb was probably, most likely, trying to watch something on the ground. Because there's very limited human activity there, and it wasn't really looking at them, they said specifically it seemed to be searching for something.
That's horrifying.
Is it?
That's so scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of reminds me of, or brings to mind, like how when aliens abduct things.
Yeah, the glowing light that beams down. Only in like this one small area.
Yeah. Also, it reminds me of the Sierra camp, how they saw that rod of light moving.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's so scary. I know. Oh my gosh, because like oftentimes these lights are seen in areas with Bigfoot sightings, too. That's so spooky.
No.
Oh, that's so scary.
I don't usually, like, get, like, nervous when we're recording things. Like, even, like, a few of our scarier ones, like, I didn't really get... Like, I got scared when I looked at, like, photos, but I didn't, like, feel, like, chills just, like, reading stuff. Mm-hmm. This one I did.
That might be because, like, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like both of us kind of believe in this a bit more than most things.
Certain people.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would make sense.
And I feel like we're onto something here with the, like...
It's suspicious. The feline stuff, it's suspicious. I don't know.
I feel like nobody has ever mentioned it before, but it seems like a thing.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Just, like, somehow in there. I don't know.
There's something about it, and especially the fact that Bigfoot is, like, so big, but it can sneak up on people. Like, a cat can sneak up on anyone, no matter how big they are.
Honestly, it's so true.
Like, my cat is huge, and he still scares me all the time.
All right, so... Also, taken from Mr. Politis' book, we have a Mr. Aaron Carroll. Mr. Carroll lives in Gasquet, California. It's Northern California. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Politis did do some, like, BC stuff, but it's not very eventful. The things that he covered. So,
okay. That's because our Bigfoot are, like, nicer?
I kind of think so. Actually, I have a note. There seems to be a difference between the U.S. and the Canadian Bigfeet.
Really?
Yeah. So from the evidence, it seems that Bigfoots in the U.S. are more stagnant than Bigfoots in Canada. So Bigfoots in Canada, they move around a lot. Bigfoots in the U.S., they generally have, like, one general area that they sort of call home, and they don't really move far from there. Probably due to, like, Canada having more seasons than the States generally does.
How can they tell that?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But it's really interesting. Okay, so this story takes place in June or July of 2004. So Aaron had just, Mr. Carroll had just graduated the year before from high school. So he was 19 years old at this time.
Okay.
The area that he lived in, apparently, it seems to be quite an outdoorsy kind of space. So he was used to doing a lot of stuff outdoors, and he was not afraid of, like, hiking, camping, stuff like that. He also was used to hearing many stories, like Bigfoot stories. And he generally assumed, according to this book, that they were either fake or that they were from people that weren't used to the outdoors that just, like, saw a bear and confused it as Bigfoot.
Okay.
Yes. So, it's like, what did I say? A year, excuse me. It's a year after he graduated. So he and two of his friends decided to, quote unquote, head up into the woods and shoot something. Could have been worded nicer, but it's fine. Mr. Carroll said that this was mainly just so, like, an excuse to spend time together. Because, you know, you drift apart from people after you graduate. So one of the friends suggested that they go to a place called French Hill Road because he knew that area well and he knew that there was a lot of game because the goal was to shoot something. It's around 2 p.m. that they arrived at Tyson Mine, which was at that time an abandoned mine. It had been abandoned, like, roughly 50 years before, so it's been abandoned for a while. So once they get there, they decide to split up and scout out a spot. They each took their separate ways and would meet back at the truck in 1 hour. As Mr. Carroll was walking around, he found a spot with maybe 20 younger pine trees in, like, a meadow. So, like, they're not full-grown pine trees, but, like, they're like halfway grown.
Okay, like teenagers.
Yeah, they're like teen trees.
Okay.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
He wanted to, like, find a better vantage point to look at this area, so he just climbed up further to see more of the meadow.
Okay.
This part of the story was a little bit interesting. So it says that he walked until he found an area where he wanted to lie on his back and look up because it was a hot summer day.
Okay.
I've never had that feeling before. If I'm like panting because it's so hot and I'm, like, exhausted, I don't really want to lie on my back facing up. I kind of just want to like kneel over on the ground, like face down and, like, throw up. No. So I don't understand this feeling. But apparently when he felt this, he decided to look back at the meadow and he saw that something was moving in the center of the trees. So he moved around so that he could actually see what was in there, and he saw a very large figure kneeling and moving his arms frantically, like it was digging or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought maybe he was trying to get his attention, which is objectively more horrifying. Why is he digging, though?
It's way scarier. Ew. I like digging much better.
Why is he digging, though?
I will tell you at the end.
Okay.
I promise.
Okay.
So he noted, as he was watching, that it's very hairy like a bear, but it's bigger. This was salt and pepper in color.
Mm.
I don't know if that means anything about age, because of things that I'll mention in a bit. And that he said that it moved like a human. Like a human would dig with their hands, like in the sand or something. Like, so this thing was as well. A lot of this story is just kind of Mr. Carroll trying to get a better, like, view at the thing. So he moves and tries to, like, look at it better, but he, like, glances down just to check his footing, and when he looks back, the creature is no longer, like, in the middle of the trees. He can't see it anymore, but he can hear that it's, like, moving down below, like, stomping around. Like, not really stomping, but, like, stepping and, like, breaking branches while it moves.
But he, like, looked down and he looked up and then it was gone.
Yeah, and then he couldn't see it.
Scary.
But he could hear it.
Okay.
Which makes it less scary.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, slightly.
Yeah.
So he does his best to follow the sound, and eventually he sees this figure again, but this time, because it's on a hill, this figure is, like, grabbing rocks and first rolling them, and then just, like, chucking them, like, overhead, reaching back, and then just overhead chucking them down the hill so that they, like, roll down the hill.
Not
like a child.
for, like, any reason, just for fun?
Not apparently for any reason, yeah, just, like, for fun. He, at this time, got an incredibly good look at the creature, and at some point he also realized that his rifle, even though it apparently was not reliable, like, it was, like, old and, like, rusty, so, like, and it gets jammed after he shot it once, so he would have to, like, unjam it. I don't know anything about guns, but it wasn't a good gun.
Well, I feel like a 19-year-old should not have a gun, especially one that doesn't work.
Yeah, like, honestly?
Yeah.
But he realized that somehow he aimed the rifle directly at this creature, like, unknowingly, just, like, by instinct. He just had raised it, and he just finally noticed that he was, like, pointing in at the creature. The book doesn't say whether, like, what thoughts specifically went through his head, if he thought about, like, I'm gonna shoot this, or, like, I'm not gonna shoot this, or, like, anything. But it's kind of like, as soon as he realized that he was, like, aiming a gun at this thing, and then he realized that he wasn't in a good position to shoot, so he decided to move, and he looked, so how the book describes this is, two things happen at the same time. Mr. Carroll moved, like, shifted and, like, slightly looked down to get, like, to shift over to a better position to point his gun, and the creature turned his head just slightly, and Mr. Carroll said that as soon as he looked down, like, the corner of their eyes, like, almost met, and he swears that the creature saw him, because as soon as he looked up again, the creature was gone.
Ew.
Split second. But because of how the hill is, the only way that the creature could have disappeared so fast was if he had jumped down. Like, just instantly in, like, the split second, just, like, jumped, like, down the hill.
Like a cat. Yeah.
Or
maybe he just disappeared.
Maybe he just is one with the forest and just
was gone.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that guy, his instinct was to aim a gun at it, whereas a lot of other people are like, my instinct is to not do that.
I know.
Yeah.
But also, it wasn't until he realized that he was in fact aiming a gun at this thing that the thing noticed he was there. Because, like, when he was observing it before, I'm sure he was still visible. But the creature still was just, like, digging and
yeah, almost
doing
like a
its
defense
stuff.
Mechanism. Like, it knew that
yeah,
it was about to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it can sense when metal is, like, facing it.
Yeah. Or, like, dangers.
Yeah.
Like, instinct, spidey sense.
Spidey sense.
Spidey sense.
Like that. Better than seventh sense.
Are they spiders? Ew.
let's I don't want to go there.
No.
It's really
That's
scary.
a bad one.
I don't like that one. So this poor kid, I don't know why I said that. I just feel like he would be scared after this.
Yeah.
But he went back to his friends, and then they all decided to go back and see what it was digging. I'm sure that they probably went back to see if it was still there. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. So what it was digging up was mushrooms and grubs. which is apparently a common thing.
I feel like that cannot be this guy's main diet. If he's big.
I mean, honestly, that's not realistic.
No. Because, like, when you said that it was digging, I was like, is it digging a grave?
When I first read the story, I kind of thought that it was digging to, like, bury another human being that it had just, like, murdered.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And then the story changed to mushrooms and grubs, and I was like, oh.
That's so scary. It almost is like a weeping angel. Like, when you look away, it moves.
Ew! Oh, ew, I hate that. Oh, I don't like that at all. Oh my goodness. Freaking the scariest episode ever. Hello. Should I tell this one last story?
Is it a David Paulides one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really long, and I'm not gonna tell it well because I'm gonna read it, like, from his book.
Okay,
I'm not gonna read it word for word, but I'm gonna do my best to, like, notify it in spoken form. What this really means is that you just have to go and buy Mr. Paulides' books. Okay, that's what I'm saying, because there's a lot of stuff in here. So, the last person from his book that I will be mentioning is Mr. Kirk Stewart. Mr. Stewart also resides in Gasket, California, in a very similar area to where Mr. Carroll resides.
Okay.
So Mr. Stewart runs an organic ranch. Cool. And it's apparently a fairly remote ranch. It's a long drive to get there. How the story goes is Mr. Paulides, when he was, like, going through the town, he just asked a forest ranger if she knew anyone that he should maybe speak with, and she said, you should talk to Mr. Stewart. So he arrives at this farm, and he's greeted by Mr. Stewart's wife, Mrs. Stewart.
She doesn't get a first name?
Mrs. Susan Stewart. Yes.
Thank you.
He apparently had been told by this ranger that the Stewart family had found Bigfoot tracks on a nearby ridgeline, and he just asked how far away it was, and Mrs. Stewart offered to take him there. Mr. Paulides, Mrs. Stewart, and the Stewart's child, who is nameless.
Okay.
I believe. Yep, Susan's son is his name.
Okay.
So they all head up there. When they finally get there, there's a ridgeline with a ton of embedded footprints, which he has photos of.
Can I see them?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in grass, and it is quite large.
They always say footprints, and then it's just like a blob.
I know. Unless it's, like, in clay, it just kind of doesn't really look like much.
Yeah. That is big, though.
It is big. As Mr. Paulides says, they were probably 17 to 19 inches long, and he could not get his footprint to go nearly as deep as the other footprints in the grass. So once they get back to the house, Mr. Stewart is home now, and they just talk about, yeah, we just saw the tracks. Dope.
It's dope.
I'm sure that they said that exactly. And then Mr. Stewart starts telling one of his first story of the lot of stories that he tells, which occurred in either 95 or 96. There is a place called Crescent City in Northern California. The town is located below sea level, apparently, so it's, like, in a bit of a bog.
Okay. Interesting.
It's apparently quite a remote location, because he says that visitors and tourists will not ever see this portion of the town, and it's located about 3 miles inland from any of the major roadways.
Okay.
Yeah. It's known for Bigfoot sightings and other animal sightings.
Just through, like, the downtown area?
Yeah.
He's just walking.
Oh, yeah.
Doing his daily shopping. Buying a trench coat and a hat.
Maybe that's where he gets it.
Maybe.
Okay, so they finally get to a house, which appears to be very isolated.
Okay.
More isolated than anything else.
Is this Bigfoot's house?
Do you think? I want to think.
It's the old lady who has a black and white
Literally. This poor old lady lives in this isolated house miles away from anyone else. Oh, okay. He and his wife, the Stewarts, were living in this house in 95 or 96.
Okay.
And one early morning in October, they were awoken by loud screams from the swamps nearby. And then they could also tell where the screams were coming from because they moved. Like, you know how you can hear when someone's close versus when they're far away and they scream? They could hear that.
That's scary.
I know. I guess they had some neighbors close by because later on, Mr. Stewart talked to some neighbors and everyone felt like it sounded like a woman was getting attacked, but the sound was too guttural to be human.
Isn't that what mountain lions sound like?
Right?
Yeah.
But it's too guttural.
To be human.
Yeah. Mountain lions sound like very much like females.
Ew, that's so scary.
I know.
Why do they do that? They need to not.
Come on, nature. After this conversation, Mr. Politis and Mr. Stewart walked a significant distance into the swamp, which is smart. Very.
Do they have crocodiles in this swamp?
I mean, they have to. It's California.
Do they have crocodiles in California?
Do they not? Yes, they have crocodiles. They have crocodiles in Florida. And Fornia and Florida sound very close.
They're on opposite ends.
They might be. I don't know how crocodiles live. I guess that was Mr. Stewart's first encounter that
The
he
screams
mentioned.
in the swamp?
Yeah. His next encounter occurred a few years earlier in 1990.
Okay.
I
Wait,
don't
what?
I don't like how this is not written chronologically. It's
No,
written
it's-
like how people tell it.
Okay. I mean, I guess. Like, you would start with, like, the least scary thing and then work your way up.
Actually, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
But also, the screams in the swamp reminds me of, like, banshees.
Okay, when I tell my last thing, I'll tie it in to that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. In 1990, Mr. Stewart was hunting with his friend Mr. Blaine Jolly, whose name has been changed. So it's not his real name.
Okay, because it sounds like a fake
It
name.
does, I know. So Mr. Stewart explained that he and Mr. Jolly had been old friends, and that Mr. Jolly is now a correctional officer at Pelican Bay State Prison.
I was like, I wonder if, like, he, like, came up with a fake name on the spot because his friend is, like, super jolly. But then his friend is a correctional officer.
The least jolly of them all.
Yeah, that's the least jolly profession you could get into.
So in October, the two of them decided to go to Siskiyou Wilderness area to hunt some deer. It was a warm day and cold at night. They were approximately 5 miles from the trailhead and were finding an area that they might spend the night. They walked a little bit more to the top of a ridgeline that surrounded a lake called El Captain Lake, and they heard water splashing at this lake. And they saw 2 figures standing about 200 yards below them in the water. They said that it appeared that these 2 figures were in about 2 feet of water, facing each other on 2 feet. They were, I guess, close enough. How far away is 200 yards? Literally no idea.
I have no clue.
I know. So it's close enough that they could see that they were dark in color, covered in hair, and splashing water on each other like children.
That's, like, so
I
wholesome.
know, right? So they couldn't figure out what they were seeing because they're covered in hair, so obviously they're not a human being, but they were acting like human beings. So they watched them for maybe 5 minutes or so until suddenly one of the creatures turned and looked directly at the men's location and saw them, and then they both ran off.
Ew. I don't know how far 200 yards is, but I'm like, imagining that it's pretty far. And,
Me
like,
too.
He just, like, senses him.
Right,
And,
that's
like,
what I'm
turns.
picturing as well.
Ew, it's like they have, like, a sixth sense, like, when
I
you're
think that
watching
they
them.
have to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about everything, like, they have to.
Yeah.
When the creatures ran off, they apparently ran at such a speed that they looked like they were running on water. It doesn't say what direction they ran, but I'm assuming that... Okay, so it says that the men could hear them running through bush in an area just below them. So I'm assuming that means that they ran, like, towards them, which is worse.
Horrifying.
I assume that they ran away from them, but I guess maybe not. But then I guess from the sounds, it showed that they were still trying to get further away because they could still hear them running. It's scary. I don't know. So the 2 men had rifles at this time and decided to still walk to where they were going to set up camp, which was just downhill from the lake. Somehow they fell asleep quickly.
How? Why? Just, like, go home.
I don't know. Okay. Between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., They were awoken from something that ran through the middle of their campsite.
I don't like how these creatures run away from them, but also towards them, and then run directly through. Do you think? Do you think they were hiding in the bushes? He's like, I dare you just like run through there.
I hope so.
Because they're kids, they're splashing water at each. Oh, they're on a date.
I wouldn't do that on a date. I would be like, this date is over.
Yeah.
I love that though, to be honest.
I mean, it's like less terrifying than the other alternative as to why they're running through the camp. Well,
it's really like the only explanation.
I don't know why they're doing it. It makes me so uncomfortable.
Other than, I dare you, go scare them off.
Yeah, I dare
right?
you, do it.
Yeah, right? I like that. That's less scary.
That's so freaky. Why would you do that? Just run right through the campsite? Oh no, I hate it.
Oh, this is a fun fact. The footsteps were so heavy that the ground moved beneath them. So it was close, presumably, is what that means. They both, sat up and looked at each other and heard the loudest ear-piercing scream, which was not far away. So, okay, apparently they didn't leave that night, but they didn't get much sleep.
These people need like a proper tent.
They literally need a house. Take a tiny house. Just lug it with you and just have it there. It's better.
That's literally what a camper trailer is.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about those. So after Mr. Stewart got back home, he found a recording of a Bigfoot scream and decided that what he heard is identical to what the recording was. So he determined now that he's heard a Bigfoot scream. This was the moment when I realized that I kind of needed to, note down the story. So Mr. Politis writes that originally Mr. Stewart said there were only 3 Bigfoot stories that he would say. But then once they had talked them all through, Mr. Stewart said that he actually had one more and that had always bothered him. This one's a good one. Okay, so 1970s. Mr. Stewart was still in the Siskiyou wilderness, and I guess he was a very avid outdoorsman when he was younger, really wanted to explore, wasn't afraid of anything, so he just charged through. And he was alone on a game trail in a very isolated spot. And at one point he decided to just have a quick rest under a tree. Okay, so as he lays down, he eventually, he's trying to relax, so he just looks around, and eventually he sees the largest pile of scat he's ever seen in his life.
That is not where I thought that was going.
Me neither. That's why I was like, wait, let me read. He, noted a lot of things about the scat, but then he also noted that the tree was huge and that there were footprints everywhere.
Ew, that's horrifying. Could you imagine just looking around and slowly realizing that you're not where you need to be?
Seriously? Like the worst.
Ew.
So he's pretty puzzled because, there's a pile of scat attached to a tree from what I'm understanding. And now there's man footprints all over. And there's no one else out there. And what's going on? So yeah, he realized that he needs to get out of there and just get away and stay safe.
I wonder what Bigfoot poop looks like.
I'm sure it's not pleasant.
Does it look like bear poop?
I feel like it looks like human poop. What does bear poop look like?
Different than human poop.
Is it?
Yeah. Significantly.
Have you seen bear poop?
Feel like I have.
Actually, wait, no, I've seen it once in my backyard, and it literally looked like the poop emoji. It was just a one giant pile of
That's impressive. Wow.
It was weird.
How do you know it was bear poop?
Well, because what else would come into my fenced backyard and take a giant poop? Not a human. It's way too big for a human. Do you remember the first Stewart story that I told you? Mm-hmm. Where they went to this isolated spot and they found footprints pretty immediately?
Yeah.
So the ridgeline that these footprints were found on, it's a kind of a direct shot right to the Tyson mine where Mr. Carroll was.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they're connected. It's obviously the same Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
It has to be.
Obviously, because, U.S. Bigfoot are stagnant, so...
Yeah.
There's one in the Tyson mines, people. Be careful.
That's horrifying.
So in 2008, Mr. Politis reconnects with Mr. Stewart. I guess I really didn't need to tell you all of the other boring stuff because nothing happens until now. I'm sorry.
It wasn't boring.
It was kind of boring. I literally just told you that he got surprised by like scat on a tree. Like that's not exciting.
Kind of funny. It raised some questions in my mind. Also, he's like suggesting that Bigfoot screams like a human woman.
Honestly, I don't really know what that is suggesting. I don't know if he's trying to say that Bigfoot was kidnapping a human woman, or like a mountain lion that was screaming like a woman, or if like Bigfoot was just like screaming like a woman. I really don't know.
Because I've never heard that before.
No, me neither.
Like I've heard howls.
And like growls.
Yeah.
And moans.
Yeah, like weird ones, but not like a human, like not like a person screaming.
Sometimes though, it like Bigfoots can imitate wolves, but you can still tell that it's not a wolf.
Wolves are eerie. The way that they howl.
I know.
Oh, spooky. Coyotes too.
Coyotes, I feel like, are worse.
Yeah, because they like yip and scream.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
How can such a tiny thing make so much noise?
I often wonder.
Okay, so in May of 2008, Mr. Stewart, on his organic farm, he, plants a lot of stuff. And this season, he decided to plant honeydew melons. The way that he had grown them, apparently, is he grew them in... Oh, he also grew cantaloupe, for the record.
Okay, so he's growing honeydew?
Honeydew melons and cantaloupe.
Okay.
The way that he grew them is in 6 big tires that were raised off the ground. And they were planted in 3 rows of 6 and placed like a quarter mile away from his house. So like at the edge of his property. Because I guess he's got a lot of stuff too,
Okay.
to grow. I'm thinking that this means his whole property had 7-foot tall deer netting around it that was very supported. It's not a flimsy railing.
Okay.
Not railing. Gate system.
Fence.
Fence! Thank you! Yes, fence is the right word. Okay, so on the night of May 29th, or the afternoon of May 29th, his son and friends had a birthday party at the house. So it's going to be 3 or 4 p.m. when they heard a horrifying loud scream that came from the area of the melons. So obviously, it screamed 3 times. This sound was made 3 times in the area of the melons.
That's like scarier than just once.
I know. I guess maybe it's kind of a town that people are like they're very open about Bigfoot, because I guess some people at the party were like, that was Bigfoot. Mr. Stewart also agreed. So we're gonna fast forward to September of that year. These melons, man, they're growing strong. They're still trying. And he still had to check on them and, water them. But this was a dark day in September when he went to check on his melons.
I know you're trying to make it scary, but then you keep saying melons. And it's
Are
the
melons
funniest
not
thing ever.
scary?
I imagine Bigfoot is like just behind the fence line screaming because he can't get at the melons.
He's like
so
reaching
mad.
through the fence like, ah.
Aw, poor guy.
I know. That's sad. Well, don't worry, because he finally got to the melons.
Good.
Of all of his melons, they had all been taken out of these tires and were now lined in a perfectly straight line, and there were about 50 melons all in one row.
Wait, okay, so is he implying that Bigfoot picked all his melons and then placed them all in a line? Am I hearing that right?
Yes. That's correct. Actually, now that you said it, melons is really funny. Wait, there's more. There's more. So, when he got to the melons, he realized that actually the center was gone. Something had eaten out the whole center of the melons, like scooped it out of all 50 melons that were lined up in a straight row, which is just rude. I don't know how many melons he looked at, but he must have looked at all of them because he found just really interesting features. One of the melons, he could see like a fingernail mark on the melon. So like when Bigfoot was like digging his hand in, he like somehow caught a nail on the outside and you could see like the indentation of a nail and not a claw, I guess.
Wild. Okay, so he just like picked it up and like scooped it out with his hands so he could get to the insides and like eat it?
Yeah. When he was looking at the poor tires that now had no melons, he noticed that there was a huge indentation where it kind of looks like maybe this creature rudely stole the melons and decided to use the tire as a seat while he ate the melons. Like, how
so
rude.
he could see, like, the imprint of Bigfoot's bottom? How
Yeah, pretty much.
was this guy sitting on these tires?
Well, he just ate like 50 melons. Like, he's probably pretty weighted because melons are heavy. This is actually fun. The writing says, the process of elimination shows that the creature could have raided the melon patch. Why did you put that in? Like, what? Obviously. That's what this whole story is about. Pardon me. Oh, dear goodness. What the heck is going on here? Okay, now we're making connections now.
Okay.
So, the melons, they were hung up, and the poles that they were on were approximately 7 feet off the ground. So only something tall could have gotten down these melons and tires.
Okay, but
How did he get them up there in the first place? Wait a minute.
How do melons grow?
I didn't realize they grew in tires. This is,
I
like,
didn't know that
revolutionary.
they grew on, like...
They grow on vines.
But, like, on the ground.
Right? But, like, if you just put dirt in a tire and, like, pressed it in...
It's like a planter box.
Made of rubber.
But why would he make it that tall so he can't get it?
So that the deer can't get it.
But that's
like
what the
bears.
net is for. What about him? He can't get it either. Guess he could bring a little ladder with him. Wait, so he was sitting on top of the tires?
No,
The 7 feet tall tires?
I'm pretty sure that the tire, like, he had pulled the tire to the ground and just was sitting on it.
Okay, because I'm just, like, imagining Bigfoot sitting
Just
at the top,
swinging like a tire
his
swing.
foot. Was the fence broken at all?
Yes, the fence had been pulled all to one side.
Okay.
And then only the insides were eaten. So, like us, Bigfoot doesn't like, the hard outsides, apparently. Oh, okay, so remember when he screamed in May?
Yeah.
So he probably saw that there were melons there, but that they weren't ready, and he was angry. So that's why he was screaming. And then he came back.
That seems like... like a little childish.
I know. That's what the book says, okay? And we're only reading off of the book.
Did it say it exactly like that?
Yes! Remember? The screams that were heard came from this exact area, but there weren't any melons to eat at that point. That's what it says.
Did he eat anything besides melons? Oh my god, he got into, like, the marijuana, and he was like, I need to eat all these melons. And that's why they're all in a straight line. He got, like, weirdly paranoid afterwards, and he's like, let me just, like...
Just like, this isn't mine! I need to... The melons was just the kicker. It all starts there, and then it gets worse. Shortly after this, on the opposite side of the melons, there were 15 peacocks. Organic peacocks.
Like the bird?
Yes. What else would it be?
Why?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm imagining this guy lives in the middle of nowhere.
He does. He does live in the middle of nowhere. It's apparently a 15-minute drive off of, like, an isolated road to get to his place. I don't know.
Okay, I won't question it.
Their pen was very sturdy. There was a 6-foot-high fence held up by the same thick posts that were used around the melon patch. It was successful in keeping out all other signs of wildlife, like mountain lions and bears and anything else.
I'm not going to judge him, but I will say that he gave his plants 7 feet tall fencing.
Honestly,
and his
true.
birds 6 feet tall fencing.
That's kind of priorities. Sheesh. Okay, this is really sad, but 10 birds were missing when he went to check on the pen. It doesn't say exactly, like, what happened. There was just, like, 10 birds gone and, like, a lot of feathers.
Okay.
Like, when the birds are having a kerfuffle, they, like, lose lots of feathers? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Apparently, there were no signs that any damage, like, that nothing had gotten in, necessarily. Like, ripped open the side to get in. But more like something came over the top of the pen and took the birds out through the top.
Oh, that's interesting, because he, like, moved the fence for the crops.
Because it was 7 feet tall, and the bird's pen was 6 feet tall. I think this is what we discovered. You need mandatory 7-foot tall fences.
That extra foot.
It makes a difference.
It really does. Wait, so he just, like, theoretically jumped the fence and then threw the birds over the other side?
Something like that.
How big is he that he could carry 5 peacocks under one arm and the other 5 under the other?
Maybe they brought more. Like, more big feats. Because now that they've discovered the melons, and this is after, they're like, hey guys, this food's here.
I think he was just sitting there eating the melons, like, plotting how he was going to get to the birds.
Honestly, that makes sense. There had to be multiple so that they could launch the other over the fence.
Yeah. So he stole 10 birds.
Yes.
Okay.
He did leave him with... Both cases when Bigfoot took something, he did still leave Mr. Stewart with things. Like, he didn't steal all the melons. He didn't take all the birds.
Okay. Was it exactly 50 melons? Because that's wild.
Apparently. It was exactly 50 melons, and he left about 60 melons.
That's nice of him.
Mr. Stewart was really upset by the taking of his peacocks, which makes sense. I would be upset too.
Yeah.
He was also really unsettled because of how difficult it would have been to get over top of the netting. To find out that they didn't break open the cage or anything, he really searched every inch of that pen. And he actually found that, quote unquote, attached to the bottom of the netting, where the creature had placed its foot, there were actually a clump of hair. There was a clump of hair found.
Bigfoot hair.
Yeah. So he said that they had to be Bigfoot hairs because of their texture. They were also very curly, like pubic hair, is how this says.
Okay, but also, like, they had to be Bigfoot hairs because of their texture. There's nothing else that could be.
Ew.
How is Bigfoot hair textured differently than, like, bear?
I don't know. I don't know. Because it's finer than bear hair.
But thicker than ours?
I guess so.
And curly.
It also had a reddish tint.
Okay.
Like we kind of mentioned before, Mr. Stewart made the connection that he was left with stuff at both times. Like, he was left with more than half of the melons that were eaten. And while the birds were not, like, eaten on his property, feathers were removed partially in the pen, apparently. Because there was a ton of feathers.
Okay.
So the hair sample was sent to a laboratory that NABS trusts, I guess.
Okay.
It's not common that it ever comes back as anything that's unidentifiable. And the first time that the lab reported back on this hair, they couldn't extract DNA because the hair was either synthetic or treated with dye, like artificial dye.
Oh.
Which is weird. So Bigfoot's really copying people now. He's even gone so far as to dye his hair.
Okay, I feel like if this guy had just, like, grabbed a piece of hair from, like, a wig or something, he wouldn't have given it to David Paulides to be tested.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's weird.
So there's another case in the pretty much the same area where another man submitted a hair sample, and it also came back that it was not able to be identified as DNA or they couldn't identify the DNA because it was artificially dyed, which Mr. Paulides knew about and connected the two.
That's so weird.
Isn't
Do you
it?
think it's something to do with, like, possibly they're supernatural? Like, maybe...
I think so.
Yeah, like bleaching or something from the radiation that it comes with being supernatural.
Well, yeah, when they turn into orbs.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yes.
I'm sure that there's something to do with it.
Okay.
That, like, our medical equipment just, like, doesn't get. Because it's based on us right now and, like, what we have. You know, what we have is entered to a database. So, like, that's how that works.
When people say life as we know it, what about life as we don't know it?
Profound. Wow.
That's wild.
I know. It gets more wild.
Oh, it's still... Okay.
It's still going.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So, the lab, apparently, according to this, they are more of like a unbiased lab. So if there's something out there that they don't know about, they want to know about it. They don't really have any feelings towards Bigfoot particularly.
Okay.
But, like, because there's, like, proof that he exists, you know, they're open to finding him.
Okay.
They, I guess, eventually forwarded it to one of their experts. And this expert stated that it was a real hair and classified it as being from an unknown primate. Specifically because of how the hair looks under a microscope.
Okay.
Yes. So following this, they actually resubmitted the hair for DNA testing again. And on December 19th, 2008, a letter was sent to Mr. Dave Paulides. Like, it's literally in the book, by the way.
Okay.
So it's a very official-looking letter. It says in here, the hair was primate in origin, and that no other species of animal resembled the microscopic appearance of the unknown hair other than primates.
Wow.
It's a real hair from an animal. It's an unidentified hair of a primate, officially.
That's so spooky.
And again, this is in the same area as Mr. Carroll's.
Yeah.
So they both saw Bigfoot.
Yeah. And you said that there was another one, too, that had hair evidence.
Yes.
So...
From a couple, 30 years earlier. Not
That's
30 years
so
earlier.
scary.
Just a few years earlier.
That's so wild.
I know.
Okay, wow.
That was long. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that story, though.
You needed to know about it.
I did, actually. And you have one more, right?
I do.
Okay, I have one more. So
Okay.
I will tell that.
I'm ready.
Have you ever heard of the ape men of Mount St. Helens?
I have heard of Mount St. Helens. It erupted.
Yeah.
My mom has a emerald from Mount St. Helens.
They have emeralds there?
Well, because when it erupts, I guess the pressure that it creates and the heat, it just creates emeralds.
That's magical.
No.
Wow, okay.
It's cool.
On Mount St. Helens in Washington, there is a gorge that has earned the name of Ape Canyon due to the legends of supposed Bigfoot in the area. There's evidence of these creatures before the specific story I'm going to get into, and evidence comes in the form of large footprints, whistling, and booming sounds.
Booming sounds?
Yeah.
Are they jumping up and down?
I don't know. Okay, so in July of 1942, Fred Beck led a group of four other prospectors, on a prospecting trip into this area. And they ended up encountering four of these ape-like creatures near their cabin that they had built. They described them as 7 feet tall, 400 pounds, with long dark hair and 4 toes. They also said
What is going on here?
they had 4-inch long ears that stood straight up.
Like dogs?
I guess so.
Ew. I don't think I like that.
No, I've never
That
heard
makes
that
it
before.
less
I don't
human.
like it.
Mhm.
Almost like feline.
Ew. Ew. Literally feline. What is going on? Oh
What is going
my gosh.
on? Are we
Oh my
discovering
goodness.
something?
This is ridiculous. Okay.
Okay, so these creatures were kind of passing by, and they ended up shooting at them, but they missed,
well,
and the
that's
creatures
rude.
ran off.
Rude.
I mean, I don't know what I would do if I saw a creature walking through the woods with, pointy ears. That makes it, almost seem like a jackal of some kind.
Well, I mean, if you stumble across anything in the forest, I think that I would just assume that it's a scary thing, and just I would want to not be noticed.
Yeah. So at this point, it started getting dark, so they decided to stay one more night because they didn't want to pack up and leave at night.
Ah.
So they returned to their cabin, and they were woken in the middle of the night by large stones hitting the walls and the roof. It gets a little scary when the rocks start breaking through the roof.
Oh.
And one of them supposedly hit Fred
Oh,
Beck,
no.
and knocked him out for a couple of hours, according to some reports, and some of them just say that didn't happen. So it's
Okay.
yeah, we don't know exactly what happened, but the creatures started coming in through the holes that were created by the rocks that they were throwing.
Oh, no.
And the men were, shooting at them, trying to, drive them off, because, they're being, swarmed by these, weird-eared creatures.
Ew.
And they had only seen a few of them, but it sounded to them like there were a lot more surrounding the cabin. And at one point, a creature was able to reach in and grab an axe on the wall. But he was shot before he could actually take it out.
Good gracious.
Isn't that scary?
How terrifying. Oh my goodness.
So this, goes on pretty much all night. They're, shooting at them, and these creatures are trying to get in and, swarming them. Then the sun came up, and the creatures ran off. Isn't that scary?
Ew. Literal nocturnal things.
Yeah. So the sun coming up kind of drove the creatures off. So the men went outside, and one creature stood near the cliff that was, by their cabin, and Fred Beck shot 3 times. This creature fell over the cliff and, presumably landed at the bottom of the canyon. But when Fred went back with a couple of rangers, they didn't find the body of the creature that he had shot, so we don't know if he killed it or not. They did see the boulders that were thrown, not just the rocks, the boulders that were thrown at them.
Well,
and they saw the 14-inch large footprints that were left behind. Unfortunately, the rangers were still skeptical and didn't fully believe what had happened.
Well, how do you explain the boulders?
I think that they tried to explain it away by saying that it was a group of teenagers, which is horrifying. Could you imagine seeing like this like creature reach in and grab an axe while you're like shooting at it and like...
And the ranger's like, yeah, teenagers.
Yeah. Years later, in May 1950, a man named Jim Carter mysteriously went missing in this area. So Jim was 32 and he was part of a 20-person climbing/skiing group. And on the way down the mountain, he decided to ski a bit away from the group to take a picture of all of them. And he was very experienced, and nobody tried to stop him. Like, he knew what he was doing. Until they got back down to the bottom of the mountain and realized that he hadn't caught up with them. When searchers later went to try to find him, they could tell that he had taken a really super risky route down the mountain.
No!
He was, like, jumping over things and jumping under things, and, like, no one in their right mind would do that, even someone as experienced as him. He jumped over, like, large crevices and seemed to be speeding down canyons as if he was being chased before the tracks kind of faded into the wilderness.
Oh,
and the only
gracious.
sign of him they ever found was a discarded film box.
Oh my gosh! This one is really scary! I don't like when we scare ourselves. Also, what was in his discarded film box? No film?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'm really, really sorry that this is gonna happen now.
Are you gonna tell me something really scary?
Yeah. I don't know why I wanted to write my notes to, like, make it scarier.
I'm excited and nervous, but I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, I also see that I forgot, like, one part that I should have mentioned. Still with David Paulides, it's not a story, it's just something that he noted in his book. Bigfoots are also called ridgewalkers by certain Aboriginal communities, which makes sense because they tend to stay on ridge tops because great vantage point. If you're trying to make sound to like call out to someone, you know, that's where you're going to make the most sound.
Okay.
When you're on top, you're kind of like top dog. You know, no one can sneak up on you because you're on the top. And also, if you see something that you want to go after, like, you're on the top. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to run downhill. After he was told this by the Yurok tribe, he decided to look more into specifically the Bluff Creek region. So the roads that they built there were pretty much, they really tried to stay on the ridge tops. And the crews that were working made many reports that they would, I don't know what they would do, but they would do something. And then they'd leave for the night. Like, they'd either smooth out the road. I'm assuming that they didn't, like, pour, like, stuff on the road and then, like, let it harden. I'm assuming that didn't happen. But when they came back the next morning, there would be footprints in the road. So
Like
there's,
concrete?
like, I don't know if it was, like, concrete or if they just, like, smoothed over the, like, dirt so that they could pour concrete.
I see what you mean.
Like, I'm not sure at what stage or if it's at both stages.
Okay.
But there's a ton of reports of footprints
Okay.
on both that ridge top and on the opposite side of Bluff Creek, Blue Creek Mountain.
Okay, cool.
Now I'm going to do a slight recap because that's how I did my notes because I don't know why that makes sense. We're going to just recap what we've learned about Bigfoot so far. They are very tall. They're very hairy. They're quiet unless they want to be loud. They're very smart. They're pretty much always stinky, usually. And they're a predator. But that being said, more often than not, humans are not their prey. We're kind of like equal on the food chain. This information is taken directly from ermakuagus.com. So we're going to go back to Russia
Okay.
with the Dyatlov Pass.
I'm scared.
Me too. I even know what I'm going to say. Because we're in Russia, we are switching from Bigfoot to their cousin. Well, the site said it was the Yeti, but I have that as the Himalayas. If you don't know what happened at the Dyatlov Pass, go back and listen to it.
It's one of our
We
best.
did it. We got so spooked. We spooked ourselves.
It was the
I mean,
spookiest.
the story is spooks, but we made it worse for ourselves. So, quick recap. 9 highly trained people went on an advanced hike. They started out with 10, but then one turned back sick partway through. In that area that they hiked, there's people there called the Mansi people, and in their culture they have something called the Menkvi, which is believed to be a violent human-like animal that stinks. To be like even more specific, because this culture is interesting. It's believed, they believe, that because these things were so violent and just terrible, they were punished by the gods by a flood. So a lot of them passed on because they, it's a flood. But some of them survived because they were able to get to the top of the mountains. It's also said that, I don't know if this is part of this like curse that was put on them, but when they pass, they're reborn. So they can never like rest.
Oh.
Yeah. Quick facts. The Dyatlov group ended up setting up camp in the middle of a mountain face. So they were trekking along the side of a mountain, but they couldn't make it to the other side where the forest was for some reason. They just like stopped halfway through and set up their tent. It was cold and windy.
And this was in the 1950s.
Thank you.
If that matters to anyone.
It does
I always
matter.
like to know the dates.
Honestly, I have no concept of time, but same. So it's odd that even though they were so experienced, when you set up tent like nearby a forest, the heat from the forest like kind of keeps you a little bit warmer and like covers you from the wind that's happening.
Yeah, it breaks the wind.
Yeah, but when you set up in them like with nothing else around you, like you're gonna be like cold.
Yeah.
Freaking cold. So when the search party found their tent, they only had one log, and the furnace hadn't even really, like, it wasn't used. They never turned it on.
Right.
If they even built it fully in the first place.
Okay.
Yes. So these experienced people, why would they set up tent on the face of a mountain with one log and never even set up the furnace?
Mm-hmm.
Like, one log is not going to be enough to keep them warm throughout the whole night.
No.
Just bear with me with this.
Okay.
According to this website, there were many cuts made in the tent from the inside, which we knew. There were many small cuts in the tent all around, like lookout points. Like they were looking out of the tent. And then later, they cut open the side so they could escape. I
am horrified.
So, the theory here is also in Dyatlov's diary, like the day before they got to this place, he mentioned something about, like, I didn't write it down, but like, why would you set up camp on the face of a mountain? Like, it doesn't seem very nice.
Dyatlov is the leader of the group.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then yet later, that's exactly what he did with his group. So if on their way, while they're trekking, they suddenly start to like get that like spiky hair feeling, and then they really start to get freaked out and just decide, okay, well, the best thing for us to do is to be on offense or defense or offense or both. We're gonna just do both. We're gonna tent up and then we're gonna poke holes so that we can still see through the outside. So we're kind of sheltered from the wind, but ooh, my voice trembled. So we're kind of sheltered from the wind, but we can also like see out, and there's nothing that we're not gonna be able to see because there's no trees around us. And we're also not gonna turn on our furnace or set up our furnace and start burning logs because, well, smoke. And now we're gonna be like noticeable. Something's gonna see us.
Yeah.
And it was heavily snowing this night as well. What if they did all this stuff and they were really, they're in their tent and they poked the holes, and now through the snow, they see a figure coming towards them through one of the poked holes, and they decide to run the other way, and they have to just get out. So they, they cut through and they can't take anything with them, any supplies or enough clothes. And we talked about this before. So like, of the important things that you would take when you're leaving your tent in a hurry, Zolotarev took his camera. Why? Okay, so I think we've seen these before, but when after looking at this and then like hearing this again, I was like totally spooked. I don't know if it's on the camera that he took with him or a different camera, because there's different, like this site makes it sound like the camera that he took with him had these photos, but the camera that he took with him, according to the official report, was damaged and the film was never found.
Okay.
When the searchers got there, the film was missing. So unless this is the missing film, like I don't know. So there's 4 photos, the last 4 photos ever taken on whatever film this is.
Okay.
This is the first one. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Kind of nothing.
It looks like somebody's just like fallen over and they're taking a picture of their feet.
Right? It does. And then
like,
there's like maybe more feet pictures. That sounds weird.
It looks like someone's buried in snow.
Well, like maybe he fell down and like was still accidentally taking like feet pics. This is the third one.
No, I don't want to see it. I'm so spooked.
It gets spookier. So it kind of looks like something's going away, but like really close. So like another person. But then...
That's so spooky. That's a Bigfoot photo. Like, that right there is a Bigfoot photo. That's not a person wearing a dark outfit.
So the website also says that the last photo depicts something big coming back towards the person taking the photograph, and that...
Your hands are shaking.
I'm really scared. This is really freaking scary. And that none of the members in the group, so like they had people that knew the group look at these photos, and that everyone said they had no clothes that would have resembled these. Anything that looked like this.
Because it doesn't look like they're... Like, it just looks like a figure, a black figure.
Like a slim figure. It's a really scary story.
Thank you for bringing it up again, though. I'm not horrified right now at all.
I'm sure you're not. I just, you know what, it needed to be done because I'd never seen it put quite like this. I'm not saying that that's what happened.
No.
But because we're talking about Bigfoot, like, this is, like, pertinent.
Yeah.
For this exact moment in time.
Yeah.
So Bigfoot maybe isn't, like, the worst, but, like, his cousin is, like,
The
not
Yeti?
very nice.
No,
Yeah.
Not very nice.
The site, for the record, the site also says that, like, some people just passed because they couldn't survive any longer being
like
in the cold.
exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you were putting anything to the Yeti theory, it's not that the Yeti just, like, you know...
Hurt them
all.
Yeah.
He definitely hurt some of them.
Yeah.
If in this theory.
Yeah.
And caused all of them to evacuate the tent and leave it beyond repair.
Yeah.
Terribly spooky.
That is so spooky. I don't think I've seen those photos before. Like, I've seen the one, but I don't think I've seen the other ones.
That's what I thought too. Because I was like, oh, I remember being spooked at all the photos. Because there's the mushroom photo from there. Which I don't know what that's about.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that awful?
That was the scariest thing ever.
I don't know why I shared that, but...
I mean, it was one of our best episodes. Go back and listen to it.
Actually, it was. I enjoyed that episode.
Wow, you had some really good stories tonight. Thank you. That was
you.
really awesome. We have more to talk about, but that's the end of our story segment.
Heck yeah.
So maybe we should start with arguments against the existence.
Let's do it.
So some people argue that Bigfoot cannot exist because they must have a breeding population, like they argue the same with the Nessie, which would require...
And the Megalodon, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It would require a large enough population and habitat with enough food and resources. So they argue that it would need to be, like, there would need to be a bunch, and it would need to be, like, a large enough area with enough food.
Why is that not a thing that is, like, possible? I don't understand what their point is.
Because the concern is that there would need to be, like, more evidence. We would know for sure that they existed if they exist to the point that, you know, bears do.
Well, you know what? They are just still finding new species of animals, so that they didn't know existed before.
Right? It's also possible that Bigfoot is just, like, one or, like, a very few amount of creatures. And that they're like just like immortal or like really long living.
Like goldfish?
Jellyfish.
Well, jellyfish aren't really alive. They come from like a plant. I still don't understand how jellyfish work.
Either.
They like are like a spore, like a mushroom.
Yeah, but they're alive, like they're an animal.
Somehow, I don't understand.
I don't know.
Why was I saying that? Oh, because goldfish live really, really, really long.
I didn't know that.
Is it goldfish or is it turtles?
I mean, turtles live a long time, too.
But, like, oh, no, it's lobsters. I don't know what it is. There's one species that, like, scientifically will never die because they just keep regenerating.
It's a jellyfish.
Well, no. There's, like, there's an actual live thing that's alive that will never die. That's alive. Jellyfish are alive, but it has, like, a heart and a brain.
Weird.
I don't know what it is.
Is it a sea slug?
I hope sea slugs live long.
There's also, like, the fact that they've never found a skeleton.
That's true.
Yeah. Possibly Bigfoot might be the kind of creature to bury its dead.
Well, see, that's kind of what I was thinking. Because aren't there other animals that bury their dead, like elephants?
Elephants mourn their dead. They might bury them a little. They can't dig, though. They don't have hands.
Well, but they stomp hard enough.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. I feel like these are facts, but now I just am lost. I don't know anymore. Other species, in addition to humans, that the practice of burying their dead has been observed is chimpanzees and chimpanzees and elephants.
Oh,
And possibly dogs. It is elephants.
it is.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, no true believer would ever hoax this, but, like, some people do hoax this, you know?
True.
They, like,
Some people are just horrible people.
Yeah. And also, that's so dangerous. Do not hoax this.
Like,
You will get shot.
please. Also, like, maybe also don't go out, like, Bigfooting, because you will probably also get shot if you do that. There are also some really, like, not very nice people that, like, will hoax it specifically so they can boast about the fact that they hoaxed it.
Yeah.
And be like, see, it's not real because I faked the system.
Yeah. We don't like those people either.
Why?
Don't like that.
Please stop.
Okay, let's talk about Bigfoot as an animal.
Heck yeah. There's real evidence.
Yeah.
Just a very quick thing about Bigfoot being an animal. It's often said that Bigfoot don't seem to notice humans if there are horses nearby. But horses don't like Bigfoot because
Right.
they're, like, scared of them. Because Bigfoot recognizes a horse's smell as an animal, does that mean that Bigfoot would also be an animal? Just in that case. This is, like, a bigger point, but I really don't have the tools to make it a bigger point. It's just, if you are riding on a horse, if you're Bigfoot hunting on a horse, you're probably more likely to see him.
Because he, like, doesn't recognize humans, right?
Like, the horse, I guess, sounds and scents cover up the human sounds and scents.
Yeah, which is why Patty wasn't concerned about Patterson and Gimlin
Until the
they got
horse
off the
left.
horse.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. Until they got off the horse.
Yeah.
And then the horse left. And then she really was like...
Yeah, so, like, Bigfoot might recognize humans as different than animals, and that makes it a predator, because essentially we are...
Because all of the other animals are prey.
Yeah.
Ew.
But, like, we're close enough to it,
Yeah.
and we carry these, like, metal
Tools.
things that can hurt it.
That do bad things.
Yeah. Some people believe that Bigfoot could be a Gigantopithecus, which went extinct 300,000 years ago. But what if it never went extinct? What if it's still around and has just been reclassified as Bigfoot?
I believe that that's possible.
They're similar in appearance, large, up to 12 feet tall, ape-like, and hairy, and it's believed that they were herbivores and lived mostly in caves. So, how could it live that long? That's a concern. So some people say maybe it could have been encased in ice, and then frozen, and then like some frogs do, freeze, and then you come back to life.
There is at least one case of a girl being accidentally frozen in ice, but she only was frozen for like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And then she still lived afterwards. But
Yeah.
she was dead.
Yeah, like her heart stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
it's possible.
I think so too.
Yeah. It could be. Like, if they were, like, flash frozen, like, it was suddenly, like, dropped down to, like, freezing temperatures.
True.
And then they were, yeah.
True.
It's possible.
I mean, crocodiles can do that. They like stick their nose out of the ice
Oh, yeah.
and then they keep living.
That's so wild. It could have also perhaps teleported from the past or traveled interdimensionally.
Ooh.
Maybe that's what the orbs are. It's like going,
It's
like,
them traveling.
yeah, in and out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's spooky.
Do you have, like, an idea of how the orbs could be related to them?
So I think that, like, because it happens so often that, like, if an orb is spotted, it's likely that there's going to be a Bigfoot encounter reported in the same area in the next, either that night or in the next coming nights. Like, they just often seem to be really interconnected.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea is that kind of, like, because Bigfoot is somehow just has all these powers that it can turn into a ball of light, and that's how it zaps places and travels. And that, you know how, like, in Avatar
Avatar the Last
yes,
Airbender? Okay.
in Avatar The Last Airbender.
Okay.
So when Aang goes into, like, the Avatar state, he, like, travels out of his body.
Okay.
No one can really see him except for certain people
All right.
that are, like, aware of the spiritual realm.
Okay.
So it could also be that, like, when a Bigfoot decides that it's time to, like, be spiritual and it just becomes one with its spirit, then it turns into this ball of pure light because it's pure.
Okay. Cool. I've never
Does
heard
any
that
of that
theory
make
before.
sense?
That's wild.
What if in that one case where Mr. Heckles?
Hester?
Mr. Hester, thank you.
Okay.
Was working with his, out in the forest and they were burning stuff. And then they saw the orb, but it looked like it was shining directly down, like it was searching for something.
Yeah.
What if it was searching for its body to return?
Oh.
Or like a portal so that it could return back to this timeline.
That's wild.
I don't know what that makes sense.
That's spooky.
We're just talking out loud.
Yeah, we are. This is just theories and speculation.
This is not scripted.
To talk more about Bigfoot as a supernatural being, and also to play off of the orb thing, they did see orbs in the sky with the Dyatlov Pass group.
That is so scary.
Seen the theory in a few places that they can use infrasound to like mess with humans around them.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like when you get that like intense fear that some people report, that's the infrasound. That's what it's doing to you, which the Dyatlov Pass group might have experienced.
Yeah, there is a theory that they experienced that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
So now we have more factors for the Dyatlov Pass theory. Okay,
Yeah, and it's
that's
horrifying.
fun. All right, this is fun.
There is a theory that perhaps it's a ghost of an ancient ape, like Gigantopithecus.
Oh.
And that is why it messes with electronics, and it explains the lack of evidence on how it like disappears into thin air, because it's a ghost, and that's what ghosts do. Speaking of the orb thing, that like reminded me of a UFO. So like maybe
Yes.
it's like looking for maybe Bigfoot is an alien, like Chewbacca.
I mean, it kind of has to be.
Yeah, I think it might be.
I feel like everything is connected. Praying mantis are from the alien race.
Also, there's a theory that Bigfoot could be part of the Fae. That he could be a fairy.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I love when we rhyme things.
And my absolute favorite theory ever is
Tell
that
me.
Bigfoot, you know how every like video and picture of Bigfoot is just blurry?
Yes.
Maybe Bigfoot is just blurry.
I actually love that. That is amazing.
I saw this theory, I stumbled across it while I was scrolling through the Reddit of Bigfoot, and it blew my mind because I've never heard this before, but it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And it is Bigfoot as a government cover-up.
There's this one guy, again, like for real, like read David Paulides' book. I cannot go into all of the details of this case. That's why I didn't include it, because this story in this book could literally be an episode in itself.
What's his name?
Greg Fork.
Okay.
Sounds fake.
It's a fake name.
Well, it sounds like a fake name. But it's apparently his real name.
Okay.
Maybe just to like paraphrase it, Mr. Greg Fork, he works as a Forest Service police officer in the Yola Bali Ranger District. That's a fake place.
All right.
He was a forest ranger, and I'm not gonna really go into depth with this, but he grew up in Willow Creek, the Bigfoot capital. So he kind of like, I'm assuming that means he knew it a lot. One of the people that he worked with was named Tom Wilhoit. Tom is weird because he drives a NASA truck into Bluff and Willow Creek, but he works as a forest ranger.
Oh,
So why would he have a NASA vehicle?
okay.
Like,
Because
why?
Bigfoot is an alien, but also is being covered up by the government.
Yes. So John Green and Mr. Paulides talked about this because it's weird.
It is really weird.
Especially,
The NASA thing?
yes, the NASA thing and the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah.
There's documents, because there's the Freedom of Information Act regarding NASA, so there's documents that like talk about it, but it's like, why does NASA have anything to do with Bigfoot?
So one of the arguments used against Patty specifically being real is
Oh.
the fact that I'm going to try to say this as politely as possible.
Is it to do with the bosoms?
It's to do with the bosoms.
Okay, see, that's a polite way to say it.
Yeah. So the bosoms.
It's not an easy way to say it.
I feel like an old lady. The bosoms have hair on them. They are covered fully in hair.
They are.
And when you look at other primates, they don't have hair there because the purpose of the bosom
is
to feed a baby.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So, some people use that to discredit Patty and say that it was a suit, but I'm going to propose that perhaps Patty is an alien, and that is just the way that alien species is formed.
Because they don't breastfeed.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But it could also be that she could, like, shed her hair in that specific area.
Oh, kind of like how, you know, like, human bodies change when pregnancy happens. Like,
Yeah.
they're hairy until pregnancy happens, and
Yeah.
then they shed. That would make sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
I'm going to use it as proof that Patty is an alien creature who lives in
Use
Bluff
it.
County and is being studied by NASA and covered up by the government.
It kind of seems like it.
Okay,
For real.
I love that.
So, again, please check out this story because, oh my gosh, it's like a lot.
Okay, so does David Paulides believe that Bigfoot are aliens? Is that what he's implying here?
He never really says.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think.
He's very secretive of what he actually believes.
It's really interesting. I don't really understand his perspective. But I'm assuming maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know. I think he just recognizes that information also has to be documented.
Okay.
Does that make
Interesting.
sense?
Yeah, okay.
Right? Okay.
To get more into the Bigfoot
Please.
cover-up, perhaps Bigfoot is an experiment
Gone wrong.
gone wrong.
Oh no.
Like an animal or human hybrid that escaped the lab or something.
Oh no. Oh dear. Okay.
It could also be an alien or interdimensional being that they're still studying.
That somehow escaped. Oh no. Just that they're studying.
Yeah,
Not
they're
that they
studying.
ever had it. I
It's
see.
like
I
a
see.
species of alien that they're not sure about. If Bigfoot as a whole were revealed to be real, it would raise a lot of questions with laws, human animal rights, conservation, religion, and science. Like, it would turn the whole world on its head.
That's a really good point.
Which is also something that I'd never thought about until I was scrolling through the Reddit. But
Me neither.
if you take into account that this is, like, a human-like creature, you need to, like,
What
figure
rights
out
does it
what
deserve?
rights it has, how much, like, should it be protected. Also, it raises questions probably, like, lots of religious people would be like, this proves something or doesn't prove something, you know?
True.
The science would be
The scientific community would be
in shambles.
literally
Yeah. It would also raise a lot of questions with laws.
hunting laws.
Hunting laws, yeah. Like, is it a creature that you can hunt or is it not? I would argue no, because I don't think that you're
Same.
allowed to hunt monkeys either. But also, all of these things are taken into account if Bigfoot is proven to be an animal. If it's proven to be something more than an animal, like an
Oh,
alien
no.
or something like that, what does that mean?
Well, obviously, if it turns out to be an alien, then we're gonna get into a war because the government will shoot on sight.
But also, if they already know about it and they're studying it and trying
True.
to, like, figure out how to keep it hidden until they can, like, classify it. There's a theory that the logging industry as a whole in general knows of its existence.
Ew.
Because, like, so many loggers and stuff and, like, outdoors people,
Forest people.
yeah, they believe in it and they've seen it and they've seen, like, strong evidence of it. But they don't want its habitat, which theoretically would be, like, so huge and expansive. It would cover, like, the entire Rocky Mountains.
True.
They don't want its habitat to become protected as they won't be able to log in that area anymore.
Oh, I've never thought about that.
Or maybe they're already being protected. Because imagine how many people would go out and try to kill one of these things if they were confirmed to be real.
True.
Like, people are crazy.
Honestly,
Some people would do that.
literally just for like trophy hunting.
Especially if they have done enough research and it's been proven that it's a keystone species.
Whoa.
I didn't know what that meant until I, like, researched it. But a keystone species, you obviously already know. I didn't know this.
See, I know that it's really important, but like
Yeah.
the actual words, I don't exactly know. But is it like if it's removed, then the rest of the ecosystem is gonna fall apart?
Essentially.
Okay,
Yeah, basically.
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is why we can't, like, get rid of mosquitoes and stuff, because if we get rid of, or, like, the bees, I think bees are a
We need
keystone
bees.
species.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so if something like that goes extinct, then everything is going to be ruined. Like, if they are the ones keeping in check the population of predator animals versus prey animals, we can't have the predator population get too high, or else we'll lose all the prey animals.
True.
Yeah.
That's like intense. Okay.
My last theory.
Yes.
Maybe the Bigfoots are in charge of the world and the government.
Whoa. You didn't sound super convinced about that, but
Bigfoot are the Illuminati. They are the leaders, and that is why we cannot know that they exist.
whoa. I can't even digest that information. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, so if Bigfoots rule the world.
They are supernaturally intelligent, as we've discussed.
is it like they've just always been in charge, and that's why the humans, so like that's why governments have always followed them, because they've always been in charge?
Yeah, or perhaps they were aliens that came to Earth, and they were like, some of us live here.
Or were
'cause
they
we love
like,
it.
you will,
Yeah.
telepathically,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like mind controlling?
Yeah, because they can use infrasound to like mess with you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bigfoot is the government.
Allegedly. This is not a fact.
This is why it's found in all corners of the world.
That actually makes sense.
That's
I mean, it's like, and I think anything can make sense if you try hard enough. But
if we've been talking for like almost 5 hours. Yeah. It could make sense. Wow, that was like a really fun episode.
I had a great time. Thank you. This was actually, I learned a lot.
Me too.
I talked a lot.
Thank you for your awesome stories. They were so good.
Literally, Mr. David Politis, MVP.
He came through.
For real.
Yeah.
Get his books. We're not sponsored. I was like thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad you were able to get one because they're hard to get your hands on.
They're like impossible. But if you can find one, like, get it.
Yeah. That was awesome. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it.
We really appreciate you.
If you would like to follow us, we are on pretty much everything at Weird Things in Wine. We have a website, so if you want to go to the website, you can find all our information there.
OMG, if you have an interesting story or just any story, you can send us anything. Like,
Yeah.
you can send us a bedtime story, whatever.
Send us anything. We will read it on the podcast if it's, like, appropriate.
Literally, I was gonna say, like, don't be creepy or
Don't be
vulgar.
creepy. But weirdthingsinwine@gmail.com.
And thank you again to that one listener who sent in their story.
It really set the tone for the whole
It
podcast.
honestly, perfect.
Yeah, it was lovely. I loved it so much. There is so much information out there about Bigfoot, and we might need to do a follow-up eventually sometime in the future.
I think we probably will. Bigfoot and, Area 51 and all that stuff, because lots of stuff is happening. So,
Yeah, and we will be searching for Bigfoot at some point, and we will come back to you with what happens. when we find
absolutely.
him.
We're gonna find him.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Don't you worry.
We have a pocket full of pebbles, and we're ready to go.
Going squatching.
Going squatching.
Stay weird.
And drink wine.
Cheers.
Stick around for some bloopers and outtakes.
I'm not telling stories very well right now. I'm
You're
just
doing
very
great.
excited to be here.
Same. Jane Goodall.
Do you not know who that is?
No, who is it?
That's the chimp lady. She like does like a lot of work with like chimps, and she's like really big in the chimp community. But
Are
also
you
in the science
in the chimp community? this is interesting. Okay.
Why don't I know this? I'm like, I have a story. You need to do the research for it. She's like in a fever haze writing this book in like a dungeon, in like a basement suite. They're me. I wrote this book.
Could you imagine?
I also don't think that matters, and I didn't need to bring it up.
No, it's vital.
Okay, I'm gonna cut all of that
You
out.
probably should. I'm sorry.
That was a mess.
I mean, 50 is like a ton.
It is like probably
Like, how do you
actually a
eat
ton.
that much? A metric ton, yes.
Maybe there was more than one.
Possible.
There were 3 screams. There were 3 big.
The 3 of them all together were so upset that the melons were not ready.
They screamed one after the other.
No, wait, there's 3 of them, remember?
Oh, there's 3 of them.
So, really, one only has to carry 4. That's not how math works. They all carry.
They all carry like 3.33 fingers.
Because they're so good at math, they can do that.
Like Mr. Bauman. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think his last name was Bauman. I think his name was just Bauman.
That's the only way that he was referred to in this story.
You called him
Was
Mr.
Bauman.
Bauman so many times, and I was like, this is like funny. I don't know if she's doing it on purpose though, so I don't want to laugh.
Now, the
Oh my god, Ash,
Holy
you scared the hell out of me.
shenanigans. You scared me.
I I'm sorry, I was really into the story. Ash was... Oh my god. William was telling me about a Bigfoot encounter and then suddenly it was like over and it's blurry. It's like you can't see that far.
Wow.
Whoa.
Red Bull was a mistake.
Sorry. Oh my god.
I'm sorry for scaring you.
Literally, it will be a blooper. It's gonna be one of my favorite bloopers. This always happens.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We've been recording for almost 5 hours.
I hope you leave that in. This is how dedicated we are to you, people listening, and talking to each other. Is it just that we like freaking each other out? Is that like why we do this?
I think so. I love it when you tell me something that's just spooky, you know? Oh, we have fun.
Somehow, we're talking about murderers and like death
Yeah.
and like melons. Like,
Is this it? Do we have to retire after this?
no, we just keep talking about. We just continue on as Bigfoot field researchers from now on. No, we have our one psychedelic special and then we're out.